When a shy waitress overheard two words in a dying language, she had 3 seconds to choose: stay invisible and keep her minimum wage job, or destroy a billionaire's $150 million deal in front of Manhattan's most powerful people and lose everything. What she didn't know? Those two words would drag her into a war with an international crime syndicate, force her to fake an engagement with a man she barely knew, and take her back to the one place she swore she'd never return: the stolen vineyard where her family's destruction began. I'm inviting you to follow this story until the very end. Hit that like button and drop a comment with your city so I can see how far this story travels. The rain came down like bullets against the floor-to-ceiling windows of Celestine, Manhattan's most exclusive rooftop restaurant. 32 floors above the city, where reservations required 6 months' notice and a net worth nobody talked about, Emily Romano moved through the dining room like a shadow. She'd perfected the art of disappearing. Head slightly bowed. Steps whisper quiet. Eyes that saw everything but meant nothing. After 3 years working tables for people who wore her annual salary on their wrists, Emily had learned the fundamental truth of her existence. Rich people didn't want to see the help. They wanted their wine poured, their plates cleared, and their privacy protected by the kind of silence only invisible people could provide. Tonight was no different. The storm had thinned the usual Friday crowd, but the remaining guests were the sort who didn't cancel plans because of weather. A tech CEO in the corner booth, 3 hedge fund managers near the piano, a fashion designer Emily recognized from a magazine she'd found in the subway. And then there was Table 4. Emily had been watching Table 4 all night, though she'd trained herself not to look directly. Nathan Cole sat alone at the restaurant's best table, the one with views of the Empire State Building and Central Park, though he hadn't glanced at either once. His dark suit probably cost more than her rent. His watch definitely did. But what struck Emily wasn't the money. She'd served plenty of billionaires who wore their wealth like armor. It was the exhaustion. Nathan Cole looked like a man who hadn't slept in weeks. His jaw was tight, his eyes were bloodshot, and he kept checking his phone with the kind of desperate frequency that meant something was very wrong. Emily had seen that look before, on her mother's face during the worst of the medical bills. It was the expression of someone drowning in expensive clothes. Emily. Marcel, the floor manager, appeared at her elbow. Table 4 is expecting guests, 2 businessmen. Eastern European, I think. They'll be ordering the tasting menu. Got it. And Emily? Marcel's voice dropped. Mr. Cole is a regular, very important. Nothing goes wrong tonight. Emily nodded, already moving toward the kitchen. Nothing goes wrong was code for, if you mess this up, you're fired. She couldn't afford to be fired. Her mother's medication cost $3,200 a month. The rent on their cramped studio in Queens was 2 months overdue. Emily's entire life was held together by tips and the desperate hope that tomorrow wouldn't be the day everything fell apart. She returned to Table 4 with fresh water glasses just as Nathan's guests arrived. They were exactly what Marcel had described. 2 men in expensive suits, late 50s, Eastern European accents. The shorter one had silver hair and a smile that never reached his eyes. The taller one had a scar running from his left ear to his collar. They greeted Nathan with the kind of elaborate warmth that always made Emily uneasy. Mr. Cole? The silver-haired man shook Nathan's hand with both of his. Such a pleasure to finally meet in person. Mr. Volkov. Mr. Dmitri. Nathan gestured to the empty seats. Please. Emily poured water, set down menus, recited the specials in the flat, pleasant voice she'd perfected. The men barely glanced at her. She was furniture, background noise. Exactly what she needed to be. We'll start with the Chateau Margaux, Volkov said without looking at the wine list. The 2005. Emily's stomach dropped. That bottle cost $4,200. Her commission would be substantial, but she'd also have to handle it perfectly. She nodded, retreating to the wine cellar with her heart hammering. When she returned with the bottle, the men were already deep in conversation. Emily began the ritual of opening the wine, letting Volkov examine the label, pouring a taste for his approval. Her hands were steady despite the price tag. This part she could do in her sleep. The mining rights are guaranteed, Volkov was saying. 40 square kilometers of untouched lithium deposits in Kazakhstan. Perfect for your battery production. Emily froze. She wasn't supposed to listen. Listening to guest conversations was grounds for immediate termination. But something in Volkov's tone made her pause. A slight shift, like a card dealer palming an ace. I've reviewed the geological surveys, Nathan said. He sounded tired. The lithium content is exactly what we need. but $150 million is significant. I need absolute certainty before we proceed. Of course, Dmitri smiled, which is why we've brought the documentation. He placed a leather briefcase on the table. Emily finished pouring the wine, moving around the table with mechanical precision. She was supposed to leave. Walk away. Let the rich men make their rich deals. But then Volkov leaned toward Dmitri and said something in a language Emily hadn't heard in 15 years. Her grandfather's language. Not Italian, not standard Sicilian, the ancient dialect from the mountain villages where her family had lived for 8 generations before everything fell apart. A dialect so specific, so regional, that maybe 3,000 people on Earth still spoke it. And what Volkov said, in that dying language he thought nobody else could understand, was "U shemustapi muzikari u amu." The fool is about to bite the hook. Emily's hand trembled, wine sloshing against the edge of the glass. Dmitri responded in the same dialect. "150 milioni pinenti, u terrenu è vacanti." 150 million for nothing. The land is empty. Emily set down the wine bottle before she dropped it. They were scamming him. The lithium mine was fake. They were about to steal $150 million from Nathan Cole, and he had no idea because he didn't speak a language that barely existed outside of 3 villages in Sicily. Emily's throat went dry. She should walk away. This wasn't her problem. These people operated in a world where $150 million was a number on a contract, where fraud was probably just another Tuesday. Nathan Cole was a billionaire. He'd recover. He'd sue. He'd hire lawyers and investigators and make these men disappear. But her family's vineyard had been stolen the same way. Different language, same con. Men in expensive suits smiling while they destroyed everything her grandfather had built. And by the time anyone realized what had happened, the thieves were gone, and the paperwork was ironclad. Emily looked at Nathan Cole. He was signing something, a preliminary agreement. His hand moved across the page with the defeated efficiency of a man too exhausted to see the trap. She had 3 seconds to decide. Keep her job, or tell the truth. Stay invisible, or burn everything down. Emily's hands were shaking so hard she had to grip the wine bottle to steady them. "Excuse me." Her voice came out wrong, too loud, too sharp. "I'm sorry, but I need to speak with you." All 3 men looked up. For the first time all night, they actually saw her. Nathan frowned. "Is something wrong with the wine?" "No, Emily's voice cracked. "I need to speak with you, privately, right now." Volkov's smile vanished. "I'm sorry, what is this?" "Please." Emily looked directly at Nathan, breaking every rule she'd ever learned about staying invisible. "Don't sign anything, not yet." The restaurant went quiet. At the other tables, conversation stopped. Marcel was staring at her from across the room with an expression of absolute horror. Nathan set down his pen. "I'm in the middle of a business meeting." "I know, I'm sorry, but you can't sign that contract." Emily's voice was steadier now, louder. "These men are lying to you." Dmitri stood up. "This is ridiculous. Mr. Cole, I don't know what—" "The lithium mine doesn't exist," Emily said. The words came out in a rush, unstoppable now. "They're running a scam. I heard them. They said it in Sicilian. They thought nobody would understand. But they said the land is empty and you're about to pay $150 million for nothing." The silence that followed was total. Nathan stared at her. Volkov's face had gone white. Dmitri's hand moved toward the briefcase. "You speak Sicilian." Nathan's voice was very quiet. "Not standard Sicilian, mountain dialect. From Corleone." Emily's heart was beating so hard she thought she might pass out. "My grandfather taught me. He's from there. And these men just said in that exact dialect that you're a fool about to bite a hook." Nathan turned to Volkov. The businessman's expression had shifted from shocked to dangerous. "This is absurd. A waitress making accusations." "Repeat what you said." Nathan's voice had changed completely. No exhaustion now, just cold focus. "Right now, in English." Volkov stood up. "We don't have to tolerate this disrespect." "Uskemu stapi muzikari u amu," Emily repeated, her voice shaking. "That's what you said, word for word. And then your friend said the land is empty." Nathan picked up his phone. "Security, table 4, now." What happened next happened fast. Dmitri grabbed the briefcase. Volkov lunged toward the exit, but Nathan was faster than he looked. His hand shot out and caught Volkov's wrist with the kind of controlled force that said he'd done this before. Two security guards appeared from nowhere, moving with military precision. Within seconds, both men were restrained. "Check the briefcase," Nathan said quietly. One of the guards forced it open. Inside were geological surveys, contracts, official-looking documents with stamps and signatures. Everything a legitimate mining deal would need. Nathan picked up one of the surveys, studied it for 5 seconds, then held it up to the light. "Photoshop," he said flatly. "Bad Photoshop. Look at the layering on the lithium density markers." He grabbed another document. "This government seal is from 2019. Kazakhstan changed their mining certification stamps in 2021. He threw the paper down. "Everything in here is fake." Volkov started speaking rapidly in Russian. Dmitri was cursing in what might have been Ukrainian. The security guards dragged them toward the service elevator while other diners watched in stunned silence. Emily stood frozen, the wine bottle still in her hand. Marcel appeared at her side, his face purple with rage. "My office, now!" "Wait," Nathan's voice cut through the chaos. "She stays." "Mr. Cole, I apologize profusely for this disruption. She just saved me $150 million. Nathan was looking at Emily like he was seeing her for the first time. "Whatever you're about to do, don't." Marcel's mouth opened and closed. "Sir, she violated protocol. She interfered with a guest's business. She stopped a felony fraud." Nathan pulled out his phone again. "I'm calling my lawyers and the FBI. This woman is a witness. If you fire her, I'll make sure every newspaper in New York knows this restaurant protects con artists." The silence stretched out. Marcel's face went through several colors before settling on defeated gray. "Of course, Mr. Cole. Whatever you need." He retreated, leaving Emily alone with Nathan. She was still shaking. The reality of what she'd done was starting to hit. She'd just destroyed a business deal in front of Manhattan's elite, accused 2 men of fraud, and caused a scene that would be gossip in every high-end restaurant by morning. "Sit down," Nathan said. "I should get back to work." "Sit. Down." Emily sat. Nathan poured wine into a clean glass and pushed it across the table toward her. "How long have you worked here?" 3 years? And you speak Mountain Sicilian because your grandfather taught you." "Yes." Emily's hands were wrapped around the wine glass to keep them from shaking. "He's from Corleone, the actual town, not the movie. He came to America in the 60s. That dialect is dying out. Maybe 3,000 speakers left in the world." Nathan's eyes were sharp now, all exhaustion gone. "What are the odds that one of them would be serving my table tonight?" Emily said nothing. "They weren't random investors, were they?" Nathan continued. "Someone knew I'd be here. Someone knew I was desperate enough to make a deal quickly. Someone set this up." He was right. Emily could see it now. The careful staging, the expensive suits, the perfect timing. This wasn't opportunistic fraud. This was targeted. "You saved my company," Nathan said quietly. "Do you understand that? I was about to wire $150 million to a shell corporation. By Monday, that money would be gone, and I'd be explaining to my board how I bankrupted us chasing fake lithium. I heard them talking." Emily's voice was barely a whisper. "I couldn't let them do it." "Why not?" The question caught her off guard. "What? Why not?" Nathan repeated. "You could have walked away, kept your job, stayed safe. Why risk everything for a stranger?" Emily looked down at her hands. "Because someone did it to my family. Different language, same con. They stole my grandfather's vineyard in Sicily with fake paperwork and legal tricks. By the time anyone realized what happened, the thieves were gone and we had nothing. My grandfather died still trying to get it back." She realized she was crying. "I'm sorry," she said quickly, wiping her eyes. "I shouldn't have—" "Don't apologize." Nathan's voice was soft. "What's your name?" "Emily. Emily Romano." "Emily Romano." He said it like he was memorizing it. "Where did you learn to stay so calm under pressure?" She almost laughed. "I'm a waitress. People yell at me every day. You learn to keep moving." Nathan studied her for a long moment. Then he pulled out a business card and wrote something on the back. "This is my private number," he said, sliding it across the table. "Tomorrow, someone from my legal team will contact you. We'll need your statement about what you heard. But after that, if you ever need anything, a reference, a job, help with something, you call that number." Emily stared at the card. "I don't understand." "You just saved my entire company. That means something." He stood up, leaving $300 bills on the table. Keep the change. And Emily? She looked up. Thank you, he said, for not walking away. Then he was gone, leaving Emily alone at table 4 with a wine bottle, a business card, and the growing certainty that she'd just destroyed her life. Marcel confirmed it 20 minutes later. You're fired, he said flatly. Effective immediately. Collect your things and leave. But Mr. Cole said, Mr. Cole isn't here anymore, and the other guests are complaining about the disruption. You created a scene. You violated protocol. You're done. Emily wanted to fight, wanted to argue, but she was so tired, and the look in Marcel's eyes said this had been decided before he walked over. She collected her tips, $340, enough to cover exactly nothing, and her jacket from the staff room. The other servers avoided her eyes. Nobody wanted to be associated with the girl who just committed career suicide. The rain had gotten worse. Emily stood outside Celestine, 32 floors below where she'd worked 3 hours ago, watching taxis spray water across the sidewalk. She pulled out her phone. 12 text messages from her mother. 3 missed calls. The hospital had tried to reach her about the medication costs. Emily looked at Nathan Cole's business card, still in her hand. She thought about calling, asking for help, cashing in the favor he'd offered. Instead, she threw the card in the trash and started walking toward the subway. She'd survived this long without Billionaire charity. She'd survive whatever came next. What Emily didn't know, what she couldn't know as she disappeared into the rain, was that Nathan Cole was standing in the back of his car, watching her through the window. And he was making a phone call. Marcus, he said to his head of security, I need everything you can find on Emily Romano. Employment history, family background, current living situation, everything. Sir? She saved my life tonight, and I think she just walked away from hers. Nathan watched Emily's figure vanish into the subway entrance. Find out who those men really were, where they came from, why they knew I'd be at that restaurant. You think this goes deeper than a simple con? A simple con doesn't use a dialect that only exists in 3 Sicilian villages. Someone did their homework. Someone knew exactly what they were doing. Nathan's voice hardened. And I want to know who. He ended the call and looked at the restaurant looming above him. Somewhere up there, 2 con artists had tried to destroy his company, and they'd been stopped by a shy waitress who spoke a dying language and couldn't afford to lose her job. Nathan had built a billion-dollar empire by recognizing patterns, by seeing opportunities nobody else noticed. And tonight, covered in rain and exhaustion, he saw something he hadn't seen in years, a chance to do something right. 3 days later, Emily was sitting in her apartment when someone knocked on the door. She wasn't expecting anyone. The landlord had stopped by yesterday to discuss the overdue rent, a conversation that had ended with 1 more week or you're out. Her mother was at the hospital for her regular treatment. Emily had spent the last 72 hours applying to restaurants across the city, only to discover that word of her scene at Celestine had spread faster than she'd imagined. Nobody was hiring the waitress who'd destroyed a billionaire's deal. She opened the door to find a man in a suit. Not expensive like Nathan's guests had worn. Practical, professional. He had the bearing of someone who'd spent time in the military. Emily Romano? Yes. My name is Marcus Webb. I work for Nathan Cole. He showed her a badge. May I come in? Emily's stomach dropped. If this is about a statement, I already talked to the police. It's not about a statement. Marcus's expression was neutral. May I? She let him in, acutely aware of how small her apartment was. How the ceiling leaked, how the furniture was a mix of sidewalk finds and thrift store rescues. Marcus didn't seem to notice. He set a briefcase on her tiny kitchen table. Mr. Cole asked me to investigate the men who attempted to defraud him. Alexei Volkov and Victor Dmitri. He opened the briefcase, pulling out photographs. These aren't their real names. Emily stared at the photos. Volkov and Dmitri, but in different contexts, different countries, different cons. They're part of an organization called the Golden Viper, Marcus continued, international fraud syndicate. They've been running mining scams across 4 continents for the past decade. Combined, they've stolen over $800 million. Why are you telling me this? Marcus pulled out another photograph. It showed a vineyard, old stone buildings, Sicilian countryside. This is the Corleone property your grandfather owned, Marcus said quietly. The one that was stolen from your family in 1987. Would you like to know who orchestrated that theft? Emily couldn't breathe. Marcus placed another photo on the table, A younger man, maybe in his 30s, standing in front of the vineyard with a satisfied smile. Alexei Volkov, Marcus said. 39 years ago. He was running the same con then that he tried to run on Mr. Cole. Your family wasn't the only victim. There were 17 others across Sicily and Calabria. All of them lost their land. None of them ever got it back. Emily sat down hard. The man who destroyed your grandfather's life just tried to destroy Nathan Cole's company, Marcus said, and you stopped him. I don't understand what you want from me. Marcus closed the briefcase. Mr. Cole believes the Golden Viper stole something else during their meeting. Technical specifications for his company's new battery technology. Files that were on his laptop during the dinner. He didn't notice until later, but someone accessed his system remotely. How is that possible? The briefcase they brought. It had a wireless transmitter hidden in the lining. While you were pouring wine, they were downloading everything on his hard drive. Marcus's expression was grim. Those files are worth $2 billion on the black market. If the Golden Viper sells them to competitors, Mr. Cole's company is finished. Emily's head was spinning. What does this have to do with me? Mr. Cole wants to stop them, but he can't do it through legal channels. These men operate in countries without extradition treaties. By the time any court case proceeds, the technology will be sold and the money will be gone. Marcus paused. He needs someone who understands how they think, someone who speaks their language, someone they underestimated once already. You can't be serious. He wants to hire you. Emily laughed. It came out broken. To do what? I'm a waitress. I got fired 3 days ago. I can barely pay my rent. Marcus pulled out a check. Emily looked at the number. $50,000. That's your signing bonus, Marcus said. If you agree to help Mr. Cole recover the stolen files and stop the Golden Viper from selling them, your salary during the operation will be $20,000 per week, plus coverage of all your mother's medical expenses, plus full legal protection. Emily couldn't speak. This is dangerous, Marcus continued. These men have killed people. If you agree, you'll be putting yourself at risk. Mr. Cole won't ask you to do anything illegal, but he will ask you to do things that are unconventional. Why me? Emily's voice was barely a whisper. Because you're the only person who's ever beaten them. Marcus stood up. Think about it. You have 24 hours to decide. If you say yes, a car will pick you up tomorrow night at 8. He left the check on the table. Emily sat alone in her apartment, staring at more money than she'd ever seen in her life. Outside, sirens wailed. The ceiling dripped. Her phone buzzed with another text from the hospital about her mother's medication. She picked up the check. Tomorrow night at 8, Emily Romano would either stay in her dying apartment and watch her life collapse, or she'd get in a car with a billionaire and go to war with the organization that destroyed her family. She looked at the photograph of her grandfather's vineyard one more time. Then she made her decision. Nathan Cole's penthouse occupied the entire top floor of a building in Tribeca that didn't advertise its address. Emily knew it cost more than she'd earn in 3 lifetimes, but when the elevator doors opened, she wasn't prepared for what she saw. It wasn't the size that struck her, though the space was massive, all glass and steel and million-dollar views. It wasn't even the obvious wealth, the art that belonged in museums, the furniture that looked like it had been designed for someone specific. It was the toys, a plastic castle in the corner, crayons scattered across a coffee table, a child's drawing taped to a refrigerator that probably cost more than a car. Emily. Nathan emerged from a hallway, and for a moment she didn't recognize him. No suit, just jeans and a t-shirt that had a stain on the collar. He looked younger, tired in a different way. Thanks for coming. You have a kid. It came out before she could stop it. Nathan smiled, but it was strained. Daughter, Sophie. She's 4. Asleep right now, thank God. Bedtime is a negotiation that makes billion-dollar deals look simple. He gestured for her to sit. Marcus told you about the files, Nathan said. It wasn't a question. About what we're up against. He told me you want to hire a fired waitress to fight international criminals. Emily's voice was sharper than she intended. Which sounds insane. It is insane. Nathan poured 2 glasses of whiskey. But I'm out of sane options. The Golden Viper operates in places where law doesn't reach. They've got the files. They've got buyers lined up. If I don't stop this in the next 2 weeks, everything I've built is gone. And you think I can help because I speak Sicilian. I think you can help because you did something nobody else has done in 40 years. You recognized their con before they closed it. Nathan met her eyes. These men are smart. They're careful. They've stolen $800 million by being better than everyone they face. But they didn't see you coming. Emily looked at the child's drawing on the refrigerator. What happened to Sophie's mother? Nathan was quiet for a long moment. Cancer. 3 years ago. Sophie doesn't really remember her. I'm sorry. Don't be. I'm telling you because you need to understand what's at stake. Nathan's voice was steady, but Emily could hear the current underneath. If my company fails, I lose everything. The house, the resources, the ability to give Sophie the life her mother wanted for her. I'm not fighting for money. I'm fighting for my daughter's future. Emily understood that. She'd been fighting for her mother's future since she was 16. Marcus said this was dangerous, she said quietly. It is. The Golden Viper doesn't leave witnesses. If they discover what we're doing, Nathan didn't finish the sentence. I won't ask you to do this unless you're absolutely certain. And if you say yes, I'll protect you with everything I have. But I need to know, are you in? Emily thought about her apartment, her mother, the jobs she'd never get, the life that was already over. Then she thought about her grandfather, dying in a nursing home, still talking about the vineyard he'd lost, still believing somehow that justice would come. What do you need me to do? She asked. Nathan smiled. It was the first real smile she'd seen from him. I need you to become someone else, he said. Someone they'll never see coming. He pulled out a folder and opened it. Inside was a photograph of Emily, but not Emily as she was. Emily in an evening gown, hairstyled, makeup perfect, looking like she belonged in the same rooms as Nathan Cole. In 2 weeks, the Golden Viper is hosting a private auction in the Hamptons, Nathan explained. They're selling my files to the highest bidder, defense contractors, foreign governments, anyone with enough money and no morals. The security will be impossible to breach by force. So we don't breach it by force. Nathan's eyes were bright now. We get invited, as guests, as buyers ourselves. Emily stared at him. You want to bid on your own stolen technology? I want to get close enough to recover it before the sale goes through. And to do that, I need to bring a partner who will make them lower their guard. Nathan paused. I need to bring my fiancé. The word hung in the air. Your fake fiancé, Emily said slowly. Your fake fiancé who speaks their language, who understands their world, who they've already underestimated once. Nathan leaned forward. Emily, these men think you're nobody. They think you're the help. That's our advantage. They'll never suspect the shy waitress is the one taking them down. Emily's heart was racing. This was crazy. Completely, absolutely insane. I don't know how to be a billionaire's fiancé, she said. You'll learn. I've got stylists, coaches, everything you need. By the time we walk into that auction, you won't just look like you belong. You'll own the room. And if they recognize me, they won't. You'll be a completely different person. Nathan's voice was certain. Trust me. Emily looked at the check Marcus had left on her table, still in her pocket. She looked at the child's drawing on the refrigerator. She looked at Nathan Cole, a billionaire single father fighting to save his daughter's future. Okay, she heard herself say. I'm in. Nathan's smile was genuine this time, relieved. There's one more thing, he said quietly. The vineyard. Your grandfather's land in Corleone. I did some research. The Golden Viper still owns it through a shell corporation. They've been using it as a base for operations in southern Europe. Emily's breath caught. If we take them down, Nathan continued, that property goes into receivership, and I've got lawyers who can make sure it ends up back with its rightful owners. He was offering her everything. Money, protection, justice for her family. All she had to do was pretend to love him and walk into a room full of criminals who'd killed for less. When do we start? Emily asked. Nathan stood up, offering his hand. Tomorrow, he said. Welcome to the war, Emily Romano. She shook his hand. Neither of them knew it yet. But in that moment, everything changed. The shy waitress who'd spent 3 years being invisible was about to become the most dangerous woman in the room, and the lonely billionaire who'd forgotten how to trust anyone was about to meet the one person who could save him. But first, they had to survive. The transformation started at 6 a.m. in a salon that didn't have a sign on the door. Emily sat in a leather chair that probably cost more than her monthly rent, watching 3 stylists circle her like surgeons prepping for an operation. None of them had introduced themselves. They just appeared with scissors and brushes and tablets full of reference photos, talking about her like she wasn't there. "The bone structure is good," one of them said, tilting Emily's chin up toward the light. "But we need to soften the exhaustion. When's the last time you slept?" "I don't remember," Emily said, honestly. The stylist nodded like that was a perfectly reasonable answer and started mixing something in a small bowl. Nathan sat across the room with his laptop, occasionally glancing up, but mostly focused on whatever crisis was unfolding on his screen. He told Emily this would take all day. She hadn't believed him. Now, 3 hours into having her hair pulled and her face examined under magnifying lights, she was starting to understand. "Why are we doing this?" Emily asked during a break, while one stylist consulted with another about color tones. "If I'm supposed to be your fiancé, wouldn't people expect me to look like me?" Nathan looked up from his laptop. "You've never been photographed with me. As far as anyone knows, I've been dating someone privately for months. Someone sophisticated. Someone who fits. Someone who doesn't look like a broke waitress. Someone who doesn't look like they've spent 3 years working doubles to survive." His voice was matter-of-fact, not cruel. "These people can smell struggle. They use it against you, so we erase it." The head stylist returned with a swatch of fabric. "This is the color palette we're building around. Emerald, deep gold, black. Nothing soft. Nothing that apologizes." Emily stared at the fabric. It was beautiful, rich, the kind of thing she'd only ever seen in magazines. "I don't know how to wear colors like that," she said quietly. "You will." The stylist's voice was surprisingly kind. "By the time we're done, you won't remember being anyone else." That was what scared her. By noon, Emily's hair had been cut, colored, and styled into something that belonged on a different person. The stylist had kept the length but added layers that moved when she turned her head, catching light in ways her old hair never had. The color was darker, richer, with subtle highlights that looked expensive because they were. "Don't touch it," the stylist warned as Emily reached up instinctively. "You'll learn to live with it perfect." Next came the makeup artist, a woman named Claudia, who barely spoke but communicated entirely through brushes and palettes. She studied Emily's face for a full minute before starting, and when she finally began applying makeup, her hands moved with the precision of someone diffusing a bomb. "You have good skin," Claudia said. It was the first compliment Emily had received all day. "You just hide it. I work nights, sleep during the day when I can. There's not much time for skincare routines." Claudia nodded, applying something under Emily's eyes that made the dark circles disappear like they'd never existed. "That's over now. From today, you take care of this face like it's worth $1 million. Because that's what people will think when they see you." Emily wanted to laugh. Wanted to say that no amount of makeup could turn her into the kind of woman who belonged on Nathan Cole's arm. But when Claudia finally turned the mirror around, Emily's breath caught. The woman staring back wasn't her. Same eyes, same mouth. But everything else had changed. The hollowness was gone. The exhaustion erased. She looked awake, alert, like someone who'd never worried about rent or medical bills or whether tomorrow would be the day everything fell apart. "Nathan," Claudia called. "Come look." Nathan crossed the room and stopped. For a long moment, he just stared. "Is it wrong?" Emily asked. Her voice sounded small. "No." Nathan's expression was unreadable. "It's perfect. You look like someone I'd propose to." Something about the way he said it made Emily's stomach flip. The wardrobe consultant arrived after lunch with 6 rolling racks of clothes. Designer labels Emily recognized from movies and magazines. Dresses that cost more than she'd made in 6 months of double shifts. "We're building a complete identity," the consultant explained, pulling dresses and holding them up against Emily's frame. "Day wear, evening wear, casual pieces that still scream money. Everything custom fitted to you." Emily stood in front of a 3-way mirror while the consultant and 2 assistants dressed her like a doll. Outfit after outfit, each one more expensive than the last, each one transforming her further into someone she didn't recognize. "How does this feel?" the consultant asked as Emily stood in an emerald silk dress that fit like it had been painted on. "Like I'm playing dress up." "Good. That's what we want. Fake it until it becomes real." The consultant adjusted the neckline. "These people are all faking it too. They just started earlier." By the time the sun started setting, Emily had been measured, fitted, photographed, and documented like she was evidence in a trial. Her feet hurt from standing. Her face felt strange under all the makeup. But when she looked in the mirror, she saw someone who could walk into a room full of billionaires and not look out of place. Nathan approached with a small box. "Last piece," he said, opening it. Inside was a ring, not huge, not the kind of ostentatious diamond that screamed, "Look at me," but beautiful in a way that made Emily's chest tight. Platinum band with a single emerald surrounded by smaller diamonds. Elegant, understated, expensive in a quiet way. "It was my mother's," Nathan said. "She left it to me before she died. Said I should give it to someone who deserved it." Emily stared at the ring. "I can't wear your mother's ring. It's just a prop. Part of the costume." But his voice was soft. "Put it on." Emily slid the ring onto her finger. It fit perfectly. "How did you know my size?" she asked. "I'm very good at details." Nathan stepped back, studying her. "Tomorrow we start training, posture, speech patterns, how to move in expensive clothes, how to talk to people who think they're better than you, how to make them believe you belong." "What if I can't do it?" Nathan's expression shifted. "Emily, 3 days ago you stood in front of Manhattan's elite and accused 2 criminals of fraud. You didn't flinch. You didn't back down. If you can do that, you can do this." Emily looked at herself in the mirror one more time. The stranger staring back looked confident, polished, like someone who'd never been afraid of anything. She wondered how long she could pretend to be that person before the cracks started showing. The training started the next morning in Nathan's penthouse. Marcus was there, along with a woman Nathan introduced as Victoria Chen, a former CIA operative who now consulted for private security firms. Victoria looked Emily up and down with the kind of clinical assessment that made Emily feel like she was being X-rayed. "Walk across the room," Victoria said. Emily walked. "Again, slower." Emily walked slower. "You're apologizing with your body. Shoulders back, chin up, take up space like you own it." Emily tried again. It felt wrong, aggressive. "Better," Victoria said. "But you're still thinking about it. Rich people don't think about posture. They've been taught to stand like that since childhood. It's automatic. We need to make it automatic for you." For the next 4 hours, Victoria drilled Emily on everything. How to enter a room, how to hold a wine glass, how to shake hands with people who considered her beneath them, how to smile without warmth, how to make eye contact that communicated, "I see you, but I don't need you." "You're going to hate me by the end of this," Victoria said during a break, "but I'm going to save your life. These people can smell fear. They use it. You need to learn how to be afraid and never show it." Emily thought she'd already learned that lesson working tables at Celestine, but this was different. This was about becoming someone who'd never had to be afraid in the first place. Nathan joined them after lunch with a stack of files. "You need to know who you are," he said, spreading documents across the table. "Not Emily Romano. Isabella Marchetti. That's your name now." Name. Emily picked up a passport. Her face stared back, but the name underneath was different. Isabella Marchetti, born in Milan, educated in Switzerland, currently living in New York. "I had my people build you a complete background," Nathan explained. "Social media accounts going back 6 years. Photos from vacations you never took. A family history in Italian textile manufacturing. Everything someone would find if they investigated you." "This is insane," Emily whispered. "This is survival." Nathan pulled up a photo on his tablet. "This is the woman you're replacing in their minds. Alexandra Volkov, Alexei's daughter." Emily stared at the photo. A woman in her 30s, beautiful in a cold way, standing next to older men at what looked like an art gallery opening. "She's their inside connection," Nathan continued. "She poses as a buyer at these auctions, helps vet the real bidders, reports back on anyone who seems suspicious. If we can convince her you're legitimate, we're in." "And how do I do that?" "By being someone she'd believe. Someone cultured, connected, bored enough with legitimate business to find the black market interesting." Nathan's eyes were intense. "You need to make her think you're just like her." Victoria leaned forward. "The key is confidence, not arrogance. Confidence. You walk in like you've been to 100 of these events, like buying stolen technology is just another Tuesday." "I've never even been to the Hamptons," Emily said. "Then we'll fix that too." The next week passed in a blur of training, preparation, and details Emily's brain couldn't quite process. They flew to the Hamptons in Nathan's private helicopter, Emily's first time in any aircraft, though she pretended she'd done it 1,000 times. They stayed at a beach house that made his penthouse look modest. They practiced scenarios until Emily could recite her fake background in her sleep. Every morning started with Victoria drilling her on body language and social cues. Every afternoon, Nathan taught her about technology and business so she could hold conversations about battery patents and lithium extraction without sounding lost. Every evening, they had dinner together while Nathan critiqued her performance. "You're still eating too fast," he said one night, like someone who's not sure when the next meal is coming. Emily set down her fork. "That's because for 3 years, I wasn't sure when the next meal was coming." "I know, but Isabella Marchetti is never worried about that. She picks at her food. She leaves half the plate. She doesn't care because there's always more." Emily stared at the expensive pasta in front of her. "This feels wrong." "It is wrong, but it's necessary." Nathan's voice was softer. "I'm not trying to erase who you are, Emily. I'm trying to keep you alive." On the fifth night, Nathan's daughter Sophie wandered into the living room where they were reviewing auction protocols. She was wearing princess pajamas and carrying a stuffed elephant. "Daddy, I can't sleep." Nathan's entire demeanor changed. "Hey, sweetheart, bad dream?" "No, just not tired." Sophie noticed Emily and tilted her head. "Who are you?" Emily froze. They hadn't discussed what to tell Sophie. "This is Emily," Nathan said. "She's helping Daddy with work." Sophie climbed onto the couch next to Emily, completely unself-conscious. "You're pretty. Are you Daddy's girlfriend?" "Sophie," Nathan started. "Kind of," Emily said. The lie tasted bitter. "We're pretending. For work." "Like playing house?" "Exactly like that." Sophie nodded sagely, like this made perfect sense. "I play house at school. I'm always the mom because I'm good at cooking." "Do you cook?" "I used to, before—" Emily trailed off. "Before what?" "Before I got too busy." Sophie studied her with the unsettling directness only children had. "You look sad." Emily's throat tightened. "Sometimes grown-ups have sad faces even when they're okay." "My mommy had a sad face. Before she went to heaven." Sophie said it matter-of-factly, like she was discussing the weather. "Daddy says she's watching us, but I don't remember what she looks like anymore." Nathan's expression cracked. Emily didn't know what to say. Didn't know how to respond to a 4-year-old casually discussing her dead mother. So she just sat there while Sophie played with the emerald ring on her finger. "This is pretty too," Sophie said. "Is it magic?" "Maybe," Emily whispered. Nathan eventually carried Sophie back to bed. When he returned, his eyes were red. "I'm sorry," he said. "She doesn't usually talk about her mother with strangers." "I'm not a stranger anymore. I'm your fake fiancé." Nathan almost smiled. "Right. My fake fiancé who my daughter just decided to trust completely." They sat in silence for a moment. "What was she like?" Emily asked. "Your wife." Nathan was quiet for so long Emily thought he wouldn't answer. "Strong," he finally said. "Stronger than me. She knew she was dying for 6 months before she told anyone. Spent that time setting up trusts, recording videos for Sophie's birthdays, writing letters for every milestone she'd miss. She planned her own funeral, picked the flowers, made me promise I'd keep building the company because it's what would take care of Sophie. That's not strength. That's terror disguised as control." Nathan looked at her sharply. "I'm sorry," Emily said quickly. "I shouldn't have—" "No, you're right." Nathan's voice was rough. "She was terrified, and I let her handle it alone because I didn't know how to help. I threw money at doctors and experimental treatments in private hospitals, but I couldn't fix it. I couldn't save her." Emily understood that helplessness. She'd felt it every time her mother went to the hospital, every time the bills came, every time she had to choose between medication and rent. "Is that why you're doing this?" she asked. "The company, the files, all of it, because you promised her?" "I'm doing this because if I fail, Sophie loses everything. The house, the life her mother wanted for her, the future we planned." Nathan's hands were clenched. "I won't let that happen." Emily looked at the man sitting across from her. Not a billionaire, just a father who was terrified of breaking a promise to his dead wife. "We'll get your files back," she said. "You sound certain." "I am, because I've got more to lose than you do." Nathan frowned. "What do you mean?" Emily stood up, walking to the window. The ocean was dark beyond the glass. "You've got money, resources. If this fails, you'll rebuild. You'll figure something out. But me? I've got one shot, one chance to stop being invisible, to save my mother, to get back what my family lost." She turned to face him. "So I'm not going to fail." Something shifted in Nathan's expression. You're not doing this for the money. The money helps. But no, I'm doing this because these men took everything from my grandfather, and then they tried to take everything from you. And I'm tired of watching bad people win. Nathan stood, crossing to stand beside her at the window. You're not what I expected, he said quietly. What did you expect? Someone who'd take the money and run. Someone who'd panic when it got real. Someone who'd need saving. He paused. But you're not that person. I've been saving myself for a long time, Emily said. I'm just doing it with better shoes now. Nathan laughed. It was the first real laugh she'd heard from him. Isabella Marchetti wouldn't say that, he said. Then it's good we're alone. They stood there in silence, watching the ocean. And for a moment, Emily forgot they were pretending. Forgot she was wearing someone else's clothes and someone else's name and someone else's ring. For a moment, she just stood next to someone who understood what it meant to fight for the people you loved. The night before the auction, Marcus arrived with final intelligence. We've confirmed the location, he said, spreading blueprints across Nathan's kitchen table. Private estate in East Hampton. Belongs to a shell corporation owned by the Golden Viper. Security is military grade, armed guards, surveillance, the works. How many people are we expecting? Nathan asked. 30 buyers maximum, all invitation only, all verified through their network. Marcus pointed to various points on the blueprint. Entry is through the main house. Auction happens in a converted ballroom. Your files will be in a secure room adjacent to the auction floor. So we just need to get into that room, recover the files, and get out without anyone noticing, Emily said. Essentially, yes. That's impossible. That's why we're not doing it during the auction, Nathan said. We're doing it before. He explained the plan. They'd arrive early, during the cocktail hour before the auction started. While the other buyers were networking and sizing each other up, Emily would excuse herself to the bathroom. Nathan would create a distraction near the main security station. In the confusion, Emily would slip into the secure room, copy the files onto a drive, and return to the party. What kind of distraction? Emily asked. Medical emergency. Allergic reaction to something in the food, dramatic enough to pull security away from their posts. Nathan's expression was calm. I've done it before. Of course you have. Marcus pulled out 2 small devices. These are the drives. They'll copy everything in under 90 seconds. Once you're in the room, plug it in, wait for the green light, and get out. Emily picked up one of the drives. It was smaller than her thumb. What if the room is locked? She asked. It will be. Marcus handed her something that looked like a credit card. RFID cloner. Hold it near any security badge for 3 seconds, and it'll copy the access code. Find someone with clearance, bump into them, apologize, walk away. You make it sound easy. It's not easy, but you're smart and you're invisible. That's better than easy. Nathan's phone buzzed. He looked at the screen and his expression tightened. What is it? Marcus asked. Alexandra Volkov just confirmed her attendance. Nathan showed them a message. She's bringing her father. Emily's stomach dropped. Alexei Volkov will be there? Apparently, he wants to personally oversee the sale. Nathan's jaw was set. Which means he'll remember you from the restaurant. Then this is over. We can't... No. Nathan's voice was firm. This changes nothing. You look completely different. You sound different. You'll be playing a character he's never met. He won't recognize you. You don't know that. I do know that. Because I barely recognized you after 1 day of preparation. He saw you for maybe 3 minutes, weeks ago, while he was focused on conning me. You're not even on his radar. Emily wanted to believe him, but she remembered the way Alexei Volkov had looked at her after she'd exposed him. Like she was something to be eliminated. Victoria spoke up from across the room. If you're scared, that's good. Scared keeps you sharp. Scared keeps you alive. But don't let it control you. Easy for you to say. I once spent 6 weeks undercover in a Chechen prison pretending to be a corrupt lawyer. Every single day I was certain someone would recognize me. Someone would figure it out. Someone would put a bullet in my head. Victoria's eyes were hard. But they didn't. Because I committed to the character completely. No hesitation, no second guessing. You need to do the same. Emily looked at Nathan. What if I can't? Then we abort and find another way. His voice was steady. I won't ask you to do something that gets you killed. But Emily, I believe you can do this. I've watched you this week. You're not the same person who walked into my penthouse. You've become someone else. That's what I'm afraid of, Emily whispered. Nathan took her hand. the one wearing his mother's ring. "You're still you," he said quietly, "under all of it, under the clothes and the makeup and the fake name. You're still the woman who risked everything to stop a scam. That person doesn't disappear just because you look different." Emily wanted to believe him. She looked at Marcus, at Victoria, at the blueprint spread across the table. "Okay," she said, "I'm ready." But she wasn't ready. The next evening, standing in front of a mirror in a black designer gown that cost more than she used to make in a year, Emily realized she had no idea who she was anymore. The woman in the reflection was stunning, poised, the kind of person who belonged at exclusive auctions and private estates, hair perfect, makeup flawless, wearing a dead woman's ring and a fake identity and the weight of everything that could go wrong. "You look beautiful," Nathan said from the doorway. Emily turned. He was in a tuxedo, looking like he'd stepped out of a magazine. For a moment, she forgot this was pretend. "I look like someone else," she said. "Good. That's the point." He crossed the room, adjusting his cufflinks. "The car leaves in 10 minutes. Last chance to back out." "I'm not backing out." "Then we need to practice." "Practice what?" Nathan held out his hand. "We're engaged. We need to look like it." Emily took his hand. His grip was warm, steady. "Closer," he said. She stepped closer. Nathan's other hand settled on her waist, and Emily's breath caught. This was part of the act, part of the character. But it didn't feel like acting. "When we walk in, you'll have your hand on my arm," Nathan said quietly. "We'll move together, like we've done this 1,000 times, like you belong there and everyone else is just visiting." "What if someone asks how we met?" "We met at a charity gala in Milan. You were there representing your family's textile business. I was speaking about sustainable manufacturing. We talked for 3 hours, and I knew." "Knew what?" "That you were different from everyone else in that room." His eyes held hers. "That's our story, close enough to the truth that it'll sound real." Emily's heart was racing. "And when did you propose?" 3 months ago, private dinner at my penthouse. I'd planned this elaborate thing, but ended up just asking during dessert because I couldn't wait." Nathan paused. "Sophie helped pick the ring. You're good at this." "I've had practice lying to people." His voice was bitter. "Investors, competitors, board members, everyone wants a story. I just give them one they'll believe." "Is any of it true? The charity gala? The dinner?" Nathan's expression was unreadable. "Does it matter?" Before Emily could answer, Marcus appeared in the doorway. "Car's ready," he said. "Time to go." Nathan released Emily, stepping back. The moment broke. "Remember," he said as they headed for the elevator, "you're Isabella Marchetti. You're bored with legitimate business. You're here because it's interesting, and you're completely in love with me." Emily looked at the ring on her finger. "Right," she said, "completely in love." But as the elevator descended toward the car that would take them to the auction, Emily realized the most dangerous part of this plan wasn't the criminals, or the security, or the risk of getting caught. It was how easy it was becoming to forget she was pretending. The estate rose out of the Hamptons' darkness like something from another century. Iron gates, manicured hedges that probably cost more to maintain than most people's mortgages. A circular driveway lit by torches that cast jumping shadows across marble fountains and sculpted topiaries. Emily's hand tightened on Nathan's arm as their car joined the line of vehicles waiting to be vetted by security. "Breathe," Nathan murmured. "You've been to places like this before, remember?" "Right. Isabella has." Emily forced herself to relax her grip. "Isabella is bored by all this." "Exactly." The car ahead of them was waved through. Then it was their turn. A guard in a dark suit approached, carrying a tablet. Nathan lowered the window. "Name?" "Nathan Cole, +1. The guard checked his tablet, then nodded to someone Emily couldn't see. A second guard walked around the car with what looked like a mirror on a pole, checking underneath for explosives or tracking devices. A third guard appeared with a sensor wand. "Step out of the vehicle, please." They climbed out. The night air was cold against Emily's bare shoulders. Another guard ran the wand over Nathan, then turned to Emily. She stood perfectly still while the device passed over her dress, her clutch, her jewelry. The emerald ring caught the torchlight. "Beautiful piece," the guard said. "Family heirloom," Emily replied. Her voice came out smooth, bored. Isabella's voice. "My fiancé has excellent taste in antiques." The guard smiled slightly and waved them through. Nathan's hand found the small of Emily's back as they walked toward the entrance. To anyone watching, they looked like exactly what they were pretending to be. A wealthy couple arriving fashionably late to an event they didn't particularly care about. But Emily could feel Nathan's fingers pressing slightly harder than necessary. A warning. Or maybe reassurance. The main entrance opened into a foyer that belonged in a museum. Marble floors, crystal chandeliers, original art on the walls that Emily recognized from her mother's old coffee table books. A Monet, a Degas. Paintings worth millions hanging like wallpaper. A woman in a severe black suit greeted them. "Mr. Cole, welcome. If you'll follow me to the reception area." They were led through a hallway lined with more art, more wealth, more casual displays of money that made Emily's earlier life feel like it had happened to someone else. The reception area was a converted ballroom with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking dark gardens. Maybe 40 people mingled with champagne glasses, their conversations creating a low hum of polite noise. Emily scanned the room automatically, looking for exits, security cameras, armed guards trying to blend in as staff. Champagne? A server appeared with a tray. Nathan took 2 glasses, handing one to Emily. Their fingers brushed, and she felt the small device he'd palmed into her hand, the RFID cloner. She slipped it into her clutch without missing a beat. "Not bad," Nathan murmured as the server moved away. "You're a natural. I spent 3 years serving people like this. I know how they move." "That's not what I meant." Before Emily could respond, a voice cut through the ambient noise. "Nathan Cole, I didn't expect to see you here." A man in his 50s approached, silver-haired, with the kind of tan that came from yachts and private islands. His smile didn't reach his eyes. "Richard." Nathan's tone was perfectly neutral. "Small world." Indeed, Richard's gaze slid to Emily with undisguised interest. "And who is this?" "Isabella Marchetti," Emily said before Nathan could introduce her. She extended her hand. Charmed. Richard took her hand, holding it a fraction too long. "Marchetti. The textile family?" "Guilty. Though I prefer to think of us as the boring thread people." Emily smiled, withdrawing her hand smoothly. "My father always said we made our fortune by literally holding everyone else's clothes together." Richard laughed. "And how did you end up with this workaholic?" "Charity gala in Milan. He was giving a speech about sustainable manufacturing. I was trying not to fall asleep." Emily glanced at Nathan with practiced affection. Then he started talking about lithium extraction, and I realized he was the only interesting person in the room. "How romantic," Richard said dryly. "We're very dull, I'm afraid," Nathan said. "Isabella collects me from my office at midnight and forces me to eat actual food. It's terrible." "Someone has to keep you alive," Emily said. "Your daughter needs you." Richard's expression shifted slightly. "I didn't know you had a daughter." "Most people don't." Nathan's voice was cool. "I prefer to keep my family private." "Of course." Richard's smile was knowing. "Well, I'll let you two enjoy the evening." "Emily, lovely to meet you." "Isabella," Emily corrected gently. "Right. Isabella." He drifted away and Emily released a breath she didn't know she'd been holding. "That was a test," Nathan said quietly. "I know. You passed." "Who was he?" "Richard Vance, venture capitalist. Also probably an informant for whoever's running this auction." Nathan's eyes tracked Vance across the room. "He'll report back that we seem legitimate." "Good. But he called you Emily." "I noticed." "Did you correct him too quickly?" "Would Isabella have cared?" Emily's stomach tightened. "I don't know. Maybe. People get my name wrong all the time. Not people like that. They remember names, details. It's how they operate." Nathan's voice was tense. "We need to be more careful." Before Emily could respond, a woman's voice rang out across the room. "Ladies and gentlemen, if you'll begin making your way to the auction hall." The crowd started moving. Emily and Nathan joined the flow, passing through another set of doors into what had once been a library, but was now configured with rows of chairs facing a raised platform. At the front of the room was a table with a locked case on top of it. Nathan's files. Emily could see them from here. A slim briefcase, unassuming, containing technology worth billions. "See the door on the left?" Nathan whispered as they found seats in the middle section. "That's the secure room. That's where you're going." Emily spotted it. Unmarked, probably locked, with a card reader beside the handle. "I need someone with clearance," she murmured. "Front row." Woman in the red dress. She's been talking to security all night. Money says she's got access. Emily studied the woman. Late 30s, attractive, moving with the kind of confidence that came from always getting what she wanted. Something about her was familiar. Then the woman turned and Emily's blood went cold. Alexandra Volkov. She looked different from her photos. Harder. But it was definitely her. Alexei's daughter. The woman who helped run these auctions. The woman who would recognize Emily instantly if she got too close. That's her, Emily breathed. I know. She's the one with access. I know. Nathan, I can't. You can. His hand found hers under the cover of her clutch. She doesn't know who you are. She's never seen Emily Romano. All she'll see is Isabella Marchetti. You're asking me to walk up to the daughter of the man I exposed and steal her security clearance? Yes. Emily wanted to laugh, or scream, or run. Instead, she watched as Alexandra Volkov took her seat in the front row, crossing her legs with practiced elegance. Watched as a man approached her. Alexei Volkov himself, older, moving with the careful precision of someone who'd survived by never making mistakes. He sat down next to his daughter, and Emily saw his profile clearly for the first time since that night at Celestine. Her hands started shaking. He's here, she whispered. I know. It doesn't matter. It matters to me. Nathan's grip on her hand tightened. Emily, look at me. She turned. That man destroyed your family. He tried to destroy mine. He's sitting 15 feet away and he has no idea you're in this room. That's power. That's control. Nathan's voice was low, intense. Use it. Emily took a breath, then another. Nathan was right. Alexei Volkov had no idea the invisible waitress was sitting behind him wearing a $10,000 dress and his mother's ring. He'd looked through Emily at Celestine the same way he'd looked through every server, every assistant, every person he considered beneath him. That was his weakness, and it was about to destroy him. A man walked onto the platform and the room quieted. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome. I trust you've all verified the authenticity of the items in tonight's catalog. Polite murmurs of agreement. Excellent. Then let's begin with lot number 1. Experimental drone technology, liberated from a defense contractor in Tel Aviv. The auction started. Emily barely heard it. She was too focused on watching Alexandra Volkov, studying her movements, the way she checked her phone, the way she touched her necklace when she was thinking, the way she glanced back at the secure room door every few minutes. She's nervous, Emily whispered. She should be. That room contains everything her organization has stolen in the past 6 months. If something goes wrong, it's her responsibility. When do I move? Wait for my signal. The auction continued. Lot 2 sold for $3 million. Lot 3 for $5 million. The atmosphere was bizarre, polite, civilized, like they were bidding on art instead of stolen weapons and technology. Emily counted the guards. 8 visible, probably more hidden. All armed, all watching the crowd with professional detachment. Then Nathan tensed beside her. Now, he breathed. He stood up suddenly, his hand going to his throat, his face flushed red. I can't, he gasped. I can't breathe. Every head in the room turned. Nathan stumbled into the aisle, still clutching his throat. Emily jumped up, playing her part perfectly. Nathan, what's wrong? Can't breathe. He collapsed. The room erupted. Guards rushed forward. The auctioneer stopped mid-sentence. People scattered, giving Nathan space. Emily knelt beside him, her face a mask of panic. Help him! Someone help him! EpiPen, Nathan choked out. In the car. Allergic. Shellfish. 2 guards were already moving toward the exit. Another knelt beside Nathan, checking his pulse. Sir, stay calm. We're getting help. In the chaos, nobody noticed Emily stand up. Nobody saw her move toward the side of the room, away from the crowd. Nobody paid attention as she approached Alexandra Volkov, who was standing now, watching the commotion with cool interest. Excuse me, Emily said, her voice shaking perfectly. Is there a bathroom? I think I'm going to be sick. Alexandra turned. For one terrible second, Emily thought she saw recognition in the woman's eyes. Then Alexandra's expression shifted to polite concern. Down the hall. Second door on the right. Thank you. Emily moved past her, stumbling slightly. Her hand brushed against Alexandra's jacket. 3 seconds of contact. The RFID cloner did its work silently. Emily kept walking, past the bathroom, past two guards who were too focused on Nathan's medical emergency to notice her. She reached the secure room door and pulled out the cloner. Please work. Please work. Please work. She held it against the card reader. The light turned green. The lock clicked open. Emily slipped inside and closed the door behind her. The secure room was smaller than she'd expected. Metal shelving lined the walls, each shelf holding cases and boxes marked with codes. Emily pulled out the device Marcus had given her and started scanning labels, looking for the one that matched Nathan's files. 30 seconds. That's how long she had before someone noticed she wasn't in the bathroom. She found the case on the third shelf, identical to the one she'd seen at Celestine. Emily popped it open. Inside were hard drives, documents, USB drives. Nathan's entire technological infrastructure, stolen and packaged for sale. Emily pulled out the copying drive and plugged it into the first hard drive. The device lit up, started transferring. 15 seconds. Emily's hands were shaking so badly she could barely hold the drive steady. 10 seconds. A guard's voice from the hallway. Check the bathroom. Make sure she's okay. 5 seconds. The light turned green. Transfer complete. Emily yanked the drive out, shoved it into her clutch, and closed the case exactly as she'd found it. The door handle started to turn. Emily spun around, leaning against the shelf, holding her clutch against her stomach like she was about to vomit. A guard opened the door. Miss, this is a restricted... I'm sorry, Emily gasped. I got lost. My fiancé is dying out there, and I couldn't find the bathroom, and I just... She made a retching sound. The guard's expression softened. Bathroom's down the hall. Come on, I'll show you. He led her out, one hand on her elbow, like she might collapse. Emily let herself be guided back toward the main room, where Nathan was now sitting up, color returning to his face, surrounded by concerned auction guests. False alarm, he was saying. I'm so sorry. Thought it was shellfish. Must have just been anxiety. Big crowd. Sorry for the disruption. His eyes found Emily across the room. She gave the smallest nod. His shoulders relaxed. Emily made it to the bathroom on her own, locked herself in a stall, and let herself shake for 30 seconds before pulling herself together. She'd done it. She'd walked into the Golden Viper's secure room, copied everything they'd stolen, and walked out without anyone suspecting. She'd beaten them. Emily checked her makeup in the mirror, fixed her lipstick, and returned to the auction hall just as the auctioneer was resuming his position at the podium. Ladies and gentlemen, my apologies for the interruption. Now, where were we? Ah, yes, lot number 4. Emily slid back into her seat next to Nathan. Under the cover of her clutch, she felt his hand find hers. You okay? He whispered. Better than okay. You got it? Every file. His hand squeezed hers. For a moment, they just sat there, two people who'd just pulled off something impossible, pretending to watch an auction they didn't care about. Then Alexandra Volkov stood up. She walked to the back of the room, spoke quietly to one of the guards. The guard nodded and disappeared through a door. Emily's stomach dropped. She's checking the room, she breathed. Impossible. You were only in there for 90 seconds. She knows something's wrong. Nathan's expression didn't change, but Emily felt the tension radiating from him. Did you leave anything out of place? No, I'm sure. I put everything back exactly... Emily froze. The case. She'd closed it. She was certain she'd closed it. But had she locked it? Had there been a lock? She couldn't remember. Everything had happened so fast. Alexandra was looking at her phone now, frowning. The guard returned, leaning close to whisper something in her ear. Alexandra's expression didn't change. She nodded once, dismissing the guard. Then her eyes swept the room, cold and calculating. They landed on Emily. For 3 seconds that felt like hours, Alexandra Volkov stared directly at her. Emily forced herself to hold the gaze. Forced herself to look mildly curious, nothing more. Just another bored socialite wondering what the fuss was about. Alexandra's eyes moved on. Emily didn't breathe until the woman sat back down. She suspects something, Nathan murmured, but she doesn't know what. Not yet. The auction continued. Lot 5, Lot 6. Nathan's files came up as Lot 9, proprietary battery technology from an American manufacturer. Bidding started at $50 million. Emily watched the numbers climb. 60 million, 70, 80. A man in the back raised his paddle. 100 million. The room went quiet. The auctioneer smiled. 100 million. Do I hear 110? Silence. Going once. Going twice. Nathan's hand tightened on Emily's. Sold. For $100 million. Applause rippled through the room. The buyer stood up, already pulling out his phone to arrange the wire transfer. It was done. Nathan's files had just been sold to someone who would reverse engineer them, destroy his company, and disappear. Except the files were useless now. Emily had copied everything. By tomorrow, Nathan's lawyers would have the originals, and the buyer would have paid $100 million for empty drives. The thought made Emily want to laugh. Instead, she leaned into Nathan and whispered, "We should leave, before anyone realizes." "Not yet. We leave too early. It looks suspicious. Stay too long, and we're trapped." Nathan hesitated. Then Alexandra Volkov stood up again and walked straight toward them. Emily's heart stopped. "Mr. Cole?" Alexandra said, her accent faint but present. "I'm so glad you're feeling better. Thank you. Just a scare. Embarrassing, really." "Not at all." Alexandra's smile was practiced. "Though I must admit, I'm surprised to see you here. You don't typically involve yourself in our world." "Isabella convinced me to expand my horizons." Nathan gestured to Emily. "She's always pushing me toward new experiences." Alexandra turned her attention to Emily fully. "We haven't been introduced. I'm Alexandra." Emily extended her hand. "Isabella Marchetti." They shook. Alexandra's grip was firm, assessing. "Marchetti? Italian?" "Milanese, though I've been in New York for several years." "And what brings you to an auction like this?" Emily could feel the trap in the question. This was a test. Alexandra was probing, looking for inconsistencies. "Honestly? Boredom." Emily's voice was light. "Legitimate business is so tedious. All those regulations and committees and stakeholder meetings. This is more interesting." "Interesting is one word for it." "What word would you use?" Alexandra's smile sharpened. "Dangerous." "Only if you're careless." "And you're not careless?" "I wouldn't be here if I was." They stared at each other. Emily could feel Nathan's tension beside her, but she didn't break eye contact. Finally, Alexandra laughed. "I like you, Isabella. You have nerve." "Thank you, I try." "We should have drinks sometime. I know all the best places in the city." "I'd enjoy that." Alexandra pulled out a card. "My personal number. Call me." Emily took the card, slipping it into her clutch next to the drive containing all of Alexandra's stolen files. "I will." Alexandra nodded to Nathan. "Take care of your fiancé, Mr. Cole. Women with nerve don't come around often." "I'm aware," Nathan said dryly. Alexandra walked away. Emily waited until she was out of earshot before breathing again. "What just happened?" she whispered. "You just became friends with the enemy," Nathan said, "which is either brilliant or suicidal. I haven't decided which." "She knows something's wrong." "But she doesn't know it's us." "Not yet." Nathan stood, offering his hand. "We're leaving, now, before that changes." They made their exit slowly, casually. Nathan stopped to shake hands with two other guests. Emily smiled and played her part perfectly. Just another couple leaving an event they'd found mildly entertaining. The same guards checked them out at the gate. The same procedure. The same wand and tablet and security protocols. The guard who'd helped Emily find the bathroom earlier nodded to her. "Hope your fiancé's feeling better, miss." "Much better, thank you." They got into the car. The gates closed behind them. Emily waited until they were a mile down the road before pulling out the drive. "We did it," she breathed. Nathan took the drive, examining it in the dim light. "Marcus will verify everything when we get back, but yes, I think we did." He started laughing. It was a sound somewhere between relief and disbelief. Emily found herself laughing too. "We just robbed international criminals. We just robbed international criminals and made friends with them while doing it. Alexandra invited me for drinks. You should go." Emily stared at him. "You can't be serious." "Why not? She likes you, trusts you. That's valuable." "She's dangerous." "So are you." Emily didn't know what to say to that. They drove in silence for a while, the Hamptons giving way to the highway giving way to the city lights of Manhattan. "What happens now?" Emily asked finally. "Now Marcus analyzes everything on this drive. My lawyers file for injunctions against anyone who bought files tonight. We expose the Golden Vipers operation and watch it burn." "And me?" Nathan glanced at her. "What about you?" "Our deal was one operation. I helped you recover the files. That's done." "You think this is done?" "Isn't it?" Nathan pulled the car over. They were somewhere near the Queens Midtown Tunnel, cars streaming past them in the darkness. Emily, you just proved you can do something nobody else can. You infiltrated an organization that's been untouchable for 40 years. You stole from them, and they thanked you for coming. His voice was intense. This isn't over. It's just beginning. I don't understand. We got the files back, but we didn't stop them. The Golden Viper is still operating, still destroying people, still winning. Nathan turned to face her fully. Unless we finish what we started. How? By taking everything from them. Their operation, their resources, their reputation. Everything they took from your grandfather and tried to take from me. His eyes were bright with something Emily couldn't quite name. But I can't do it alone. I need the woman who speaks their language. The woman who can walk into their world and burn it down from the inside. Emily looked at the emerald ring on her finger. You're asking me to stay, she said quietly. I'm asking you to finish this. For your family. For mine. For everyone they've destroyed over 4 decades. Emily thought about her grandfather's vineyard. About Sophie asking if the ring was magic. About Alexandra Volkov smiling while she planned to sell stolen technology to the highest bidder. What would it involve? Alexandra invited you for drinks. Accept. Become her friend, her confidant. Learn how their organization works from the inside. Find their weakness. Nathan paused. And when the time is right, we use it against them. That could take months. Probably. I'd have to keep being Isabella. Keep pretending. Yes. What about my mother? Already taken care of. Marcus set up an account this morning. All her medical expenses covered, plus a stipend for living expenses. Emily's throat tightened. You did that without asking me. I did that because it was the right thing to do. Regardless of whether you stay or go. Emily stared out at the traffic. Somewhere in that stream of cars were people going home to normal lives, jobs and families and concerns that didn't involve international crime syndicates. She could go back to that, take Nathan's money, find a new restaurant, disappear into the same invisibility she'd lived in for years. Or she could stay and become someone who fought back. If I do this, she said slowly, I do it my way. No more secrets, no more plans I don't know about. We're partners or I walk. Nathan extended his hand. Partners. Emily shook it. Then she pulled out her phone and looked at Alexandra's card. What are you doing? Nathan asked. Accepting a drink invitation. She typed out a message. Had such a lovely time tonight. Would love to connect soon. Are you free this week? Isabella. The response came back in seconds. Tomorrow, 8 p.m. I'll send you the address. Wear something that makes men jealous. Emily showed Nathan the message. He read it and smiled. You're really doing this. Apparently. Emily? She looked at him. Thank you, he said quietly, for not walking away. Again. Emily thought about the shy waitress who'd stood in Celestine 3 weeks ago, too afraid to speak up. Thought about how that woman had been destroyed the moment she'd opened her mouth. That person doesn't exist anymore, she said. You made sure of that. I didn't make you into someone new. I just gave you permission to stop hiding. Emily looked down at the emerald ring catching streetlight. What if I don't know who I am without the hiding? Nathan started the car again. Then I guess we're about to find out. They drove back to Manhattan in silence, and Emily Romano, who had once been invisible, prepared to become the most dangerous thing Alexandra Volkov had ever befriended. The bar Alexandra chose was the kind of place that didn't advertise. No sign on the door, no website, just an address in Soho and a velvet rope manned by someone who decided if you belonged. Emily arrived at exactly 8, wearing a black dress that cost more than her old apartment's security deposit. The doorman looked at her once, checked something on his tablet, and unhooked the rope without a word. Inside, the bar was all dark wood and low lighting. Jazz played from speakers Emily couldn't see. The crowd was small, exclusive, the kind of people who could afford to drink $1,000 bottles of wine on a Tuesday night. Alexandra was already there, sitting at a corner table with a view of the entire room. She saw Emily and waved her over. Isabella, you came. Of course. I never turn down a good drink. Just a good drink? Alexandra's smile was knowing. Not the company? The company helps. Emily sat down and a server appeared instantly with 2 glasses of champagne. Emily recognized the label, Dom Perignon, probably the 2008, about $400 a bottle. To new friends, Alexandra said, raising her glass. To new friends. They drank. The champagne was perfect. Emily hated that she could tell the difference now. So, Alexandra said, settling back in her chair, tell me about yourself. The real story, not the boring textile business version. Emily had prepared for this. Spent the entire day with Victoria rehearsing answers, building layers into Isabella's background that would hold up under scrutiny. What do you want to know? Everything. Start with why you're really dating Nathan Cole. The question caught Emily off guard. I told you, we met at a gala. Please. Alexandra's voice was sharp. You can lie to other people, but not to me. I saw how you looked at him during his little medical emergency. That wasn't love, that was calculation. Emily's heart rate spiked, but she kept her expression neutral. What makes you think that? Because I know what real panic looks like, and I know what performance looks like. Alexandra leaned forward. You were terrified, but not for him. You were terrified of what would happen if the plan failed. Emily could deny it, should deny it, but something in Alexandra's eyes told her that would be a mistake. You're perceptive, Emily said carefully. I'm alive. Same thing in my world. Alexandra sipped her champagne. So tell me the truth. Why are you with Nathan Cole? Emily made a decision. His company is worth $3 billion. He has no family except a 4-year-old daughter, and he's desperately lonely since his wife died. So you're after his money. I'm after security. Emily met Alexandra's eyes. I've spent my entire life watching my family's fortune disappear because my father made stupid decisions. I'm not making the same mistakes. Nathan Cole is smart, successful, and too exhausted to see that I'm exactly what he needs until it's too late. It was close enough to the truth that it felt real. And the bitterness in Emily's voice wasn't entirely fake. Alexandra studied her for a long moment. Then she smiled. I knew I liked you. You're practical. I prefer realistic. Most people would call it cold. Most people are poor. Alexandra laughed, genuinely delighted. Oh, we're going to be wonderful friends. The server returned with small plates of food Emily hadn't ordered. Oysters, caviar, things that cost more than they should. Tell me about your family, Alexandra said. The real story. Emily had prepared this too. My grandfather owned vineyards in Sicily. Beautiful land, old family, all the romantic Italian nonsense. Then someone stole it from him with fake paperwork and legal tricks. He spent the rest of his life trying to get it back and died broke. That's terrible. That's business. Emily's voice was flat. My father inherited nothing, tried to rebuild, failed. Now my mother is sick and I'm engaged to a billionaire. Circle of life. Do you hate them? The people who stole your family's land? Emily looked directly at Alexandra. I used to, but hate is exhausting. Now I just take notes. Notes on what? On how they did it. How they got away with it. How to make sure it never happens to me. Alexandra's expression shifted to something like respect. You're not what I expected. What did you expect? Someone softer. Someone who'd fall for Nathan Cole's sad widower act and genuinely want to save him. Alexandra popped an oyster into her mouth. But you're smarter than that. Nathan doesn't need saving. He needs managing, and I'm very good at managing things. I believe you. Alexandra refilled both their glasses. Can I tell you a secret? Please. I'm bored. Alexandra's voice dropped. My father's business, the auctions, all of it. It's the same thing over and over. Desperate people selling stolen goods to other desperate people. It was exciting once. Now it's just tedious. Then why do you keep doing it? Because it's the family business. Because my father expects it. Because what else would I do? Alexandra's smile was bitter. Walk away and become what? A legitimate businesswoman? That ship sailed 20 years ago. Emily heard the truth underneath the words. Alexandra was trapped. Maybe not the way Emily had been trapped, working doubles to pay medical bills, but trapped nonetheless. What would you do? Emily asked. If you could do anything. Alexandra was quiet for a moment. I'd disappear. Take enough money to never worry again and vanish. New name, new country, new life. Leave all this behind. Why don't you? Because my father would find me. And because I'm a coward. Alexandra's laugh was hollow. I talk about being dangerous and ruthless, but really, I'm just scared of being alone. Emily understood that fear intimately. You're not alone now, she said. Alexandra looked at her, really looked at her. No, I suppose I'm not. They drank more, talked more, and with each glass of champagne, Emily felt the line between Isabella and herself blurring further. By midnight, Alexandra was telling stories about auction disasters and criminal buyers who'd tried to cheat her father. By 1 a.m., Emily was laughing at jokes she shouldn't find funny. By 2 a.m., they were sharing a cigarette outside the bar, even though Emily had never smoked in her life. I have a proposition, Alexandra said, exhaling smoke into the cold night air. I'm listening. There's an opportunity coming up. Big money. My father is planning something in Sicily. He won't tell me details yet, but it involves reclaiming some old assets and leveraging them for a new operation. Alexandra turned to Emily. He's looking for investors, legitimate ones who can front the capital while we handle the execution. Emily's stomach tightened. This was it. The opening Nathan had predicted would come. How much capital? 50 million minimum, could go as high as 200 depending on the scope. And the return? Triple your investment within 6 months. Maybe quadruple if everything goes smoothly. Emily pretended to consider it. Nathan would never go for something that risky. So don't tell Nathan, use your own money. I don't have 50 million. Not yet. But you will once you're married. Alexandra's smile was sly. I'm just planting seeds for the future, Isabella. When you have access to Nathan's accounts, remember who your real friends are. Emily should have been horrified. Should have been disgusted that Alexandra was casually suggesting she embezzle from her fake fiancé. Instead, she smiled. I'll remember. They parted ways at 2:30. Alexandra's driver took her north. Emily caught a cab south, back to Nathan's penthouse where she'd been staying for the past 3 weeks. Marcus was waiting in the lobby. How did it go? He asked as they rode the elevator up. She trusts me. Or at least she wants to. Emily pulled off her heels, her feet aching. She mentioned something about Sicily, an operation her father is planning. Marcus's expression sharpened. Details? None yet. She said he's keeping it close, but they're looking for investors. That's our window. The elevator opened. Nathan was in the living room, still awake despite the hour, laptop open, Sophie's toys scattered around him. You're back, he said, looking up. How was it? Productive. Alexandra likes me, trusts me, thinks I'm using you for your money. Are you? Emily threw her shoes at him. Nathan caught them, grinning. She mentioned Sicily, Emily said, collapsing onto the couch. Something big. Her father is planning an operation there. Nathan's smile vanished. Sicily, your grandfather's vineyard. That's what I thought. Marcus pulled out his tablet. We've been monitoring Golden Viper communications. There's been increased activity around Corleone in the past month. Property transfers, security upgrades. Something's happening. They're fortifying, Nathan said, which means they're planning to use it as a base for something major. Emily stared at the ceiling. So what do we do? We get invited, Nathan said. If Alexandra trusts you, she'll bring you into the operation. Once you're inside, we can see what they're planning and stop it. And if I can't stop it? Nathan was quiet for a moment. Then we go to Sicily ourselves and burn it down. Emily sat up. You're serious. Your grandfather's land is the key to their operation. If we take it back, we take away their base, their security, their advantage. Nathan's eyes were hard. We hit them where they live. That's insane. That's war. Emily looked at Marcus. Is this actually possible? Tactically? Yes. We'd need a team, local support, extensive planning. Marcus's voice was clinical. But the bigger question is whether you're ready for what happens after. What do you mean? You expose the Golden Viper in Sicily, you paint a target on your back. These people don't forgive. They don't forget. You'd be looking over your shoulder for the rest of your life. Emily thought about her grandfather, about the vineyard he'd lost, about dying in a nursing home, still believing justice would come. I'm already looking over my shoulder, she said. At least this way, I'm moving forward. Nathan stood up, crossing to the window. The city sprawled below them, millions of lights, millions of lives. There's something else, he said quietly. The files we recovered from the auction. Marcus found something. What? Marcus pulled up an image on his tablet. It was a document, old, written in Italian. Emily recognized the letterhead, a Sicilian land office. This is the original deed to your grandfather's vineyard, Marcus said, from 1962. It was in the Golden Viper's files. Emily's breath caught. Why would they keep that? Insurance. Proof of ownership in case anyone ever challenged them. But it also proves they stole it. Marcus zoomed in on a signature. This transfer document is a forgery. The notary seal is fake. The witness signatures don't match any records from that time period. So we can prove it was stolen. More than that, we can prove who stole it. Marcus pulled up another document. This is the shell corporation that took ownership, registered in Luxembourg, owned by a trust in the Caymans, and the beneficiary of that trust is Alexei Volkov, Emily whispered. Exactly. He's been using your family's land for 40 years, laundering money through it, hiding assets. It's the foundation of his entire operation. Nathan turned from the window. Which means if we take it back, we don't just get justice for your grandfather. We destroy everything Alexei built on stolen land. Emily stared at the documents. Her grandfather's name was there, faded but visible. Antonio Romano. A man she'd barely known. A man who'd died believing he'd failed his family. When do we leave? She asked. We need to wait for Alexandra to invite you in, Nathan said. If we move too soon, we tip our hand. And if she doesn't invite me? She will. You're exactly what she needs, someone wealthy, bored, and morally flexible enough to invest in criminal enterprise. Emily almost laughed. 3 weeks ago, she'd been a waitress worried about rent. Now she was posing as a morally flexible heiress planning to infiltrate an international crime syndicate. Her phone buzzed. A text from Alexandra. Had so much fun tonight. Let's do it again soon, maybe this weekend. I want you to meet my father properly. He's very interested in your family's connections. Emily showed Nathan the message. That's your invitation, he said. Emily typed back, would love to. Should I bring Nathan? The response came immediately. No, just you. This is business, not a social call. She wants me alone, Emily said. Marcus frowned. That's a risk. It's also an opportunity. Nathan was already thinking ahead. If Alexei wants to meet you without me, it means he's vetting you as an independent asset, someone who can funnel money without my knowledge. So I'm going. Not without backup. Nathan pulled out his phone. Victoria will be there. Different location, monitoring everything. You'll have a panic button built into your watch. Anything goes wrong, you press it, and we extract you. Emily looked at the emerald ring on her finger. What if they search me? They won't. You're a potential investor, not a threat. They'll treat you like a valued guest. Nathan paused. Until they don't. Comforting. I'm not going to lie to you about the danger, but I'm also not going to let anything happen to you. Emily wanted to believe him, wanted to trust that Nathan could protect her from people who'd been killing with impunity for 40 years. Instead, she just nodded and sent Alexandra a confirmation. The weekend came faster than Emily expected. Alexandra's driver picked her up Saturday afternoon. The car was a black Mercedes with tinted windows and a driver who didn't speak. They drove north, out of the city, into Connecticut countryside that got progressively more isolated. Emily's watch felt heavy on her wrist. The panic button was disguised as a clasp. 3 taps, and Nathan's security team would mobilize. She didn't know if that made her feel safer or more terrified. They arrived at an estate that made the Hamptons auction house look modest. Gates, guards, acres of manicured lawns surrounding a mansion that belonged in a European castle catalog. Alexandra met her at the entrance. Welcome to my father's weekend retreat, she said. Try not to look impressed. He's very vain about it. I'll do my best. Inside, the mansion was exactly what Emily expected. Too much money spent trying to prove something. Art that screamed expensive. Furniture that prioritized appearance over comfort. Everything curated to intimidate. Alexei Volkov was in the library. He stood when they entered, and Emily's heart nearly stopped. This close, she could see the resemblance to the photos Marcus had shown her. Older, grayer, but the same cold calculation in his eyes. The same man who'd destroyed her family. Mr. Volkov, Emily said, extending her hand, thank you for inviting me. Miss Marchetti, a pleasure. His accent was thicker than his daughter's. Alexandra speaks very highly of you. She's too kind. No, she's very selective about her friends. If she likes you, there's a reason. Alexei gestured to a chair. Please, sit. Would you like tea, coffee? Coffee. Black. A servant appeared with a full service before Emily had finished sitting down. The coffee was perfect. Emily hated everything about this. My daughter tells me you come from textile manufacturing, Alexei said. Old Italian money. Not as old as some, not as much money as others, but enough to be comfortable. Comfort is overrated. Ambition is what matters. Alexei studied her. Do you have ambition, Miss Marchetti? Depends on the day. Today? Emily sipped her coffee. Today I'm curious about why you wanted to meet me alone. Alexei smiled. Direct. I appreciate that. Too many people waste time with pleasantries. He leaned back. I have a business opportunity. High risk, high reward. It requires investors who understand that legitimate channels are sometimes too slow for modern business. You mean illegal? I mean practical. And you think I'm practical enough to invest in something Nathan Cole wouldn't approve of? I think you're smart enough to recognize that Nathan Cole's approval is less important than your own future. Alexei's eyes were sharp. My daughter tells me you're engaged. Congratulations. But engagement is not marriage, and marriage is not ownership. You're a foreigner in America. If things go wrong, you could find yourself with nothing. That's a cheerful thought. That's reality, which is why smart people diversify. Create safety nets Cole doesn't control. Emily set down her coffee cup. What exactly are you proposing? An investment in a Sicilian reclamation project. We're acquiring undervalued property and leveraging it for agricultural development, vineyards specifically. The region has excellent potential. Emily's blood ran cold. He was talking about her grandfather's land, about using stolen property for his next scheme. Vineyards, she repeated. Her voice came out steady. In what part of Sicily? Near Corleone. Beautiful countryside. The property has been underdeveloped for years, but we have plans to transform it into a premium wine operation. Who owns it currently? We do, through various corporate structures, all legitimate. Emily forced herself to smile. And the investment required? $50 million initial capital. Returns begin in 6 months. Within 3 years, you'd triple your investment, possibly quadruple depending on market conditions. That's ambitious. That's guaranteed. We already have buyers lined up for the entire first 5 years of production. It was exactly the kind of con her grandfather had fallen for. Beautiful promises, legitimate-sounding details, numbers designed to make you stop asking questions. I'm interested, Emily heard herself say, but I'd need to see the property first. Meet with your agricultural consultants, review the actual business plan. Alexei's expression didn't change, but Emily saw something flicker in his eyes. Approval. Of course, due diligence is essential. He pulled out a tablet. We're planning a site visit in 2 weeks. Small group, key investors only. You'd fly to Palermo, tour the property, meet with local partners. 3 days total. I assume Nathan wouldn't be invited. This is your investment, not his. Though of course if you choose to involve him later, that's your decision. Emily pretended to consider. 2 weeks. I'll need to rearrange some things. Naturally. Alexandra will send you the details. Alexei stood, signaling the meeting was over. Thank you for coming, Miss Marchetti. I have a feeling we're going to do excellent business together. Emily shook his hand, the same hand that had signed forged documents, the same hand that had destroyed her grandfather. She smiled and said nothing. Alexandra walked her back to the car. Well, she asked, what do you think? I think your father is very good at making criminal enterprise sound like legitimate business. Alexandra laughed. That's his specialty. So, you're in? I'm considering it. Don't consider too long. There are other investors. I'm sure there are. Emily climbed into the car. I'll let you know by Monday. The car pulled away. Emily watched the estate disappear in the side mirror. She waited until they were back on the highway before tapping her watch 3 times. Her phone rang immediately. Nathan. Are you okay? I'm fine. He offered me exactly what we thought he would. The Sicily operation? Yes, site visit in 2 weeks. Corleone, my grandfather's vineyard. Emily's voice was shaking now that the performance was over. He's going to use stolen land to run another scam, and he wanted me to invest in it. Nathan was quiet for a moment. What did you say? I said I'd think about it. Good. That buys us time. Another pause. Emily, we need to talk about what happens next. Can you come straight here? I'm already on the way. Marcus and Victoria were waiting when Emily arrived. Nathan's living room had been transformed into a command center. Laptops, maps, surveillance photos spread across every surface. We've been monitoring communications since you left, Marcus said. Alexei made 3 phone calls after you departed, all encrypted, all to Sicily. What did they say? We couldn't decrypt them, but the timing is significant. He's accelerating something. Victoria pulled up a satellite image of Corleone. This is your grandfather's property, or what used to be his property. The Golden Viper has been using it as a logistics hub for the past 15 years. Warehouses here, security facilities here, and this building, she zoomed in, is residential, probably where Alexei stays when he's in Sicily. Emily stared at the image. Somewhere in those pixels was the vineyard her grandfather had loved, the land he'd died trying to reclaim. What's the plan? She asked. Nathan spread out a larger map. You accept the investment offer. You go to Sicily with Alexandra. While you're touring the property, my team will be staging nearby. We document everything, the stolen land, the criminal operation, all of it. Then we expose it. And after we expose it, we take it back, legally. We have the documents proving it was stolen. Italian authorities will have to act. You really believe that? That showing them paperwork will make them do the right thing? Nathan's expression was grim. No. I believe showing them paperwork while simultaneously exposing an international crime syndicate will make it politically impossible not to act. That's not a plan. That's hope. You have a better idea? Emily looked at the satellite image again. What if we don't wait for authorities? What if we just take it? Marcus frowned. Take it how? The same way it was stolen from my family. Paperwork, legal tricks, corporate shells. Emily's mind was racing now. We create a better forgery than theirs. We file it with Italian land offices. We make it look like the property transferred to new owners, to me, through legitimate channels. That's illegal, Victoria said. So is everything they've done for 40 years. Nathan was studying her. You're talking about fighting fraud with fraud. I'm talking about taking back what's mine using the same tactics they used to steal it. Emily met his eyes. You said this was war. Well, wars aren't won by playing fair. Marcus pulled out his tablet, already thinking tactically. We'd need someone inside the Italian land office. Someone who could backdate documents and make them look authentic. I know someone, Victoria said quietly, from my CIA days. He's based in Rome, handles exactly this kind of thing for intelligence operations. How much would it cost? $500,000, maybe more. Emily looked at Nathan. Can you afford that? Can you afford not to do this? She couldn't. Emily had spent 3 weeks becoming someone else, 3 weeks learning how to walk and talk and think like people who took what they wanted without asking, 3 weeks pretending to be Isabella Marchetti. Maybe it was time to stop pretending and start taking. Make the call, she said to Victoria. Nathan crossed to the window. If we do this, there's no going back. We'll be committing fraud in a foreign country against an organization that kills people for less. I know. And if it goes wrong, if we get caught, I can't protect you from Italian prison. I'm not asking you to protect me. I'm asking you to help me finish what my grandfather started. Nathan turned. Then we need to do this right. No mistakes. No improvisation. We plan everything down to the minute. For the next 3 days, they planned. Victoria's contact in Rome confirmed he could create the necessary documents. Marcus mapped out security protocols. Nathan arranged logistics, flights, safe houses, emergency extraction routes. And Emily studied everything about her grandfather's vineyard, old photographs, property surveys, family stories her mother had told her. On the third night, Emily found Nathan in Sophie's room watching his daughter sleep. She talks about you, he said quietly. Asks when Isabella is coming back. What do you tell her? That you're busy, that you'll visit soon. Nathan's voice was soft. She likes you. She doesn't like most people. Smart kid. Takes after her mother. They stood there in silence, watching Sophie's chest rise and fall. After Sicily, Nathan said. After we take back the vineyard. What happens to Isabella? Emily didn't have an answer. I don't know if I can go back to being Emily, she admitted. The person I was before. She feels like someone I made up. Maybe you did. Maybe we all do. Nathan looked at her. But the question isn't who you were. It's who you want to be. I want to be someone my grandfather would be proud of. He would be. He'd be terrified and furious that you're doing something this dangerous. But he'd be proud. Emily touched the emerald ring, still on her finger after 3 weeks. When this is over, she said, I should probably give this back. Why? Because it's not real. None of this is real. Nathan took her hand. Emily, I gave you my mother's ring because I thought you deserved it, not Isabella, you. And regardless of what happens in Sicily, that hasn't changed. Emily's throat tightened. Don't. Don't what? Don't make this complicated. It's already complicated. It's been complicated since the night you saved me at Celestine. That was different. I was different. No. You were just finally letting yourself be seen. Nathan's grip on her hand was warm. And I see you. Not the role you're playing, not the character we created. You. Emily wanted to pull away, wanted to keep the wall between them that made this bearable, but she was so tired of hiding. What if I don't know who that is anymore, she whispered. Then we'll figure it out. After Sicily. After all of this. Nathan paused. Together. Emily looked at him. Really looked at him. Not the billionaire, not the single father, just a man who was as lost as she was, trying to find something real in a world built on lies. She kissed him. It wasn't planned, wasn't part of any strategy or performance. It was just Emily, tired of pretending, reaching for something true. Nathan kissed her back. And for one moment, in a dark room with a sleeping child, and the weight of everything they were about to risk, Emily let herself believe that maybe some things were real after all. They pulled apart. That was, Nathan started. A mistake, Emily finished. I was going to say, inevitable. Emily smiled despite herself. That too. Her phone buzzed. A message from Alexandra. My father approved your investment. Sicily trip is confirmed. See you in 2 weeks, partner. Emily showed Nathan the message. This is it, he said. Last chance to back out. Emily thought about her grandfather, about Sophie sleeping in the next room, about everything the Golden Viper had taken from people who couldn't fight back. I'm not backing out, she said. I'm finishing this. 2 weeks later, Emily boarded a private jet to Sicily carrying a fake identity, stolen documents, and the weight of 40 years of injustice. The war was about to reach its end, and someone was going to lose everything. Sicily looked different than Emily had imagined. She'd expected something picturesque, rolling hills, ancient villages, the romantic Italy from travel magazines. Instead, the landscape outside the car window was harsh and beautiful in equal measure. Dry earth, twisted olive trees, mountains that looked like they'd been there since the world began. Alexandra sat beside her in the back of a Range Rover, scrolling through her phone. They'd landed in Palermo 2 hours ago and were now driving inland toward Corleone. 3 other cars followed, investors Alexei had vetted, plus security that tried not to look like security. You're quiet, Alexandra said without looking up. Just thinking. About? Whether I'm making a massive mistake investing $50 million in Sicilian vineyards with people I barely know. Alexandra smiled. Smart. You should be nervous. Anyone who isn't nervous around my father is an idiot. That's not reassuring. It's not supposed to be. It's honest. Alexandra finally looked at her. Are you going to back out? Emily thought about Nathan, waiting in a villa 20 kilometers away with Marcus and Victoria. Thought about the forged documents already filed with the land office in Palermo. Thought about her grandfather dying in a nursing home, still believing justice would come. No, she said. I'm not backing out. Good. Because we're here. The car turned off the main road onto a private drive. Gates opened automatically, and then Emily saw it. Her grandfather's vineyard. It looked nothing like the photographs. The main house was still there, old stone, terracotta roof, exactly as her mother had described. But everything else had been transformed. Warehouses where grape fields should have been. Security fences. Guard posts. The bones of the vineyard were visible underneath, like a body that had been dissected and repurposed for parts. Emily's hands clenched in her lap. Impressive, isn't it? Alexandra said. My father bought this property for nothing 30 years ago. Now it's worth $20 million just in infrastructure. Bought, not stole. Emily bit her tongue hard enough to taste copper. The cars stopped in front of the main house. Alexei was waiting on the steps, flanked by men who were definitely not agricultural consultants. Welcome to Corleone, he said, spreading his arms. The heart of our Sicilian operation. The other investors climbed out. A German banker, a Russian oligarch's son, an American tech executive who'd made his money in crypto. All of them carrying briefcases full of money they thought was going to make them richer. Emily followed Alexandra inside. The house had been gutted. What should have been her great-grandmother's kitchen was now an office full of computers. The living room where her grandfather had been born was a conference room with a massive table. Every trace of the Romano family had been erased and replaced with the sterile efficiency of criminal enterprise. "We'll start with a tour," Alexei announced, "then lunch, then we'll discuss terms of investment." He led them through the property, pointing out features like he was showing off a legitimate business. The warehouses that optimized logistics, the security system that protected valuable agricultural equipment, the renovated wine cellars that were actually storage for whatever the Golden Viper was trafficking this month. Emily forced herself to smile, to nod, to play the role of Isabella Marchetti, bored heiress who saw only profit margins. But inside she was counting guard positions, camera placements, exit routes, everything Nathan would need if this went wrong. They reached the vineyard itself, or what was left of it, a few acres in the back that Alexei had kept for authenticity, old vines that had somehow survived 40 years of neglect. "These are the original plants," Alexei said proudly. "Some are over 100 years old. The previous owner apparently cared about them very much." Emily stopped walking. "What happened to the previous owner?" she asked. Her voice came out steady. "Who knows? Some local family. They sold it and moved on." Alexei shrugged. "Ancient history." "You mean you stole it?" The words were out before Emily could stop them. The entire group went silent. Alexei turned slowly. "I'm sorry?" Emily's heart was hammering, but her voice stayed calm. "You stole this property. The previous owner didn't sell it. You forged documents and took it." Alexandra grabbed her arm. "Isabella, what are you—" "My name isn't Isabella." Emily pulled her arm free. "It's Emily. Emily Romano. And this vineyard belonged to my grandfather." For 3 seconds, nobody moved. Then Alexei started laughing. "Romano," he said, like he was tasting the word. "Antonio Romano. I remember now. Stubborn old man. Refused to accept reality even when we showed him the paperwork. The forged paperwork. The legal paperwork signed by a notary. Witnessed, completely legitimate in the eyes of Italian law." Alexei's smile was cold. "Your grandfather was a fool who made bad investments. We simply capitalized on his mistakes. You destroyed my family. No. We gave your family exactly what they deserved for being weak." Alexei stepped closer. "And now you come here pretending to be someone else, thinking you can do what? Get revenge? Take back land you have no claim to?" "Actually," Emily said, "I already took it back." She pulled out her phone and showed him a document. The new deed, filed 3 days ago with the land office in Palermo, showing ownership transferred from Alexei's shell corporation to Emily Romano through a complex series of legal transactions that looked completely legitimate because Victoria's contact had made them legitimate. Alexei snatched the phone, reading. His face went white. "This is impossible. It's done. As of 72 hours ago, this property legally belongs to me. You're trespassing." Alexandra was staring at Emily like she'd never seen her before. "You played me. Everything. The friendship, the investment, all of it, was a lie." "Yes." "Why?" "Because you and your father have been stealing from people for 40 years, and someone needed to stop you." Alexei threw the phone on the ground. "You think filing paperwork means anything? You think I can't make you disappear before anyone even knows you were here?" "That would be difficult," Nathan said, "considering there are about 20 witnesses watching this conversation right now." He emerged from behind one of the warehouses with Marcus and 6 security personnel, all armed, all positioned strategically around the property. The other investors scattered immediately. The German banker literally ran back to his car. Alexei's guards reached for their weapons, but Marcus's team was faster. Within seconds, every gun was pointed at the ground, and Alexei was surrounded. "Nathan Cole," Alexei said. His voice was still calm, but Emily could see the calculation behind his eyes. "This is unexpected." "Is it? You tried to steal from me. My fiancé stopped you. Did you really think I'd let that go? Your fiancé." Alexei looked at Emily with something like respect. "She's very good. I almost believed her. She was good enough to infiltrate your organization, gain your daughter's trust, and take back everything you stole from her family." Nathan crossed to stand beside Emily. "And now you're finished. You can't prove anything. That deed is a forgery. Tukishara. Actually, it's more legitimate than yours ever was." Nathan pulled out a tablet. "We have the original documents from 1962. We have proof your notary seal was fake. We have testimony from 3 people who witnessed your organization coercing the Romano family into signing over their property. He showed Alexei the screen. And we have Italian authorities standing by to arrest you the moment we make the call. Alexei's expression finally cracked. You're bluffing. Am I? Nathan looked at Marcus. Make the call. Marcus pulled out his phone. Wait, Alexandra said. She was still staring at Emily. You never cared about me, about our friendship, any of it. Emily wanted to say yes, wanted to confirm that every moment had been performance, every conversation calculated manipulation. It would be easier that way, cleaner, but it would also be a lie. I didn't want to care, Emily said quietly. I wanted to use you and walk away. But you told me you were trapped, that you wanted to disappear, that you were tired of being your father's daughter. She paused. That part was real, and I think you know it. Alexandra's eyes were wet. So what happens now? You take the vineyard, my father goes to prison, and I'm supposed to thank you for destroying my life? Your life was already destroyed, you just didn't know it yet. Emily's voice was softer. You told me you wanted to disappear. Here's your chance. What are you talking about? Nathan spoke up. We're not interested in you, Alexandra, just your father. You walk away now, cooperate with authorities, provide testimony about the Golden Viper's operations. We'll make sure you're protected. New identity, new country, the disappearance you wanted. You're offering me witness protection? We're offering you a way out. Alexandra looked at her father. Alexei's expression was pure rage. If you betray me, he said quietly, there is nowhere you can hide. There's everywhere I can hide, Alexandra replied. I've been planning it for 5 years. I just needed a reason. She turned to Nathan. What do you need? Everything. Names, accounts, operations, where the bodies are buried, literally and figuratively. And you'll protect me? Yes. Alexandra took a breath. Then she pulled out her phone and started talking. She talked for 2 hours, gave Marcus access to encrypted files, named names that made Nathan's security team exchange glances, described operations across 4 continents that would take law enforcement years to fully investigate. And through it all, Alexei stood silent, watching his daughter destroy everything he'd built. When she finally finished, Marcus made a call. Within 30 minutes, Italian police arrived in force. Carabinieri. Financial crimes investigators. Enough official presence that Alexei's remaining guards surrendered without a fight. Emily watched as they put handcuffs on the man who destroyed her grandfather. Watched him being led to a police car. Watched him look back at the vineyard one last time. It was never yours, Emily said. Her voice carried across the courtyard. And now everyone knows it. Alexei didn't respond. But Emily saw something in his face that might have been recognition. Not remorse, not shame. Just the simple acknowledgement that he'd finally lost. The police cars drove away. The other investors had fled hours ago. The property was empty except for Emily, Nathan, Marcus, Victoria, and Alexandra. What happens to me now? Alexandra asked. Victoria stepped forward. There's a flight to Athens in 4 hours. From there, you'll go to a safe house in Prague. New documents, new identity. You'll never be Alexandra Volkov again. Good. I hated being her anyway. Alexandra looked at Emily one last time. For what it's worth, I meant what I said that night at the bar, about being bored, about wanting to disappear. That was real. I know. And I really did like you, or at least I liked who I thought you were. Emily almost smiled. I liked who I thought I was too. Turns out we were both pretending. Maybe that's all any of us can do. Pretend until it becomes real enough to matter. Alexandra picked up her bag. Goodbye, Emily Romano. Goodbye, Alexandra. Victoria led her away toward a waiting car. Emily watched until they disappeared down the drive. Then it was just her and Nathan standing in the courtyard of her grandfather's vineyard. It's yours now, Nathan said quietly. Legally. Completely. No one can take it from you. Emily looked at the old stone house, the neglected vines, the warehouses that would need to be torn down, the entire property that represented 40 years of injustice finally corrected. She should have felt victorious. Instead, she just felt tired. My grandfather spent his whole life trying to get this back, she said. He died believing he'd failed. And now I'm standing here, and he's not. He never got to see justice. But he raised a daughter who raised you, and you did what he couldn't. Nathan's voice was gentle. That's not failure. That's legacy. Emily walked to the vineyard, to the old vines Alexei had kept. Her grandfather had planted these, had tended them, had believed they'd still be here when he came home. She touched one of the vines and felt the rough bark under her palm. "What do I do with it now?" she asked. "I don't know anything about running a vineyard." "You could sell it, use the money to take care of your mother, live comfortably for the rest of your life." "I could." Or, Emily looked at the mountains in the distance, the harsh, beautiful landscape that her family had called home for generations. "Or I could stay," she said. "Tear down the warehouses, replant the fields, turn this back into what it was supposed to be." "That would take years." "I have years." "It would take money." "You owe me approximately 6 weeks of salary at $20,000 a week." Emily calculated in her head. "Call it $120,000. Nathan laughed. "I think we can do better than that." "I don't want charity." "It's not charity, it's an investment. You help me rebuild this vineyard, I'll help you build a legitimate wine business. Partners." Emily turned to look at him. "We tried being partners. It got complicated." "It was always complicated." Nathan stepped closer. "But that doesn't make it wrong." "What are you saying?" "I'm saying Sophie asked when you're coming home, and I realized I didn't have an answer because I don't know if you consider my penthouse home anymore." Emily's throat tightened. "Nathan, you don't have to decide now. You don't have to decide ever. But I need you to know that whatever you choose, staying here, going back to New York, disappearing like Alexandra, I'll support it. Because the woman I fell for isn't Isabella Marchetti. It's Emily Romano. And Emily deserves to choose her own future." Emily wanted to say something profound, something worthy of the moment. Instead, she just stood there with tears running down her face in the courtyard of her grandfather's vineyard. "I kissed you," she said finally, "in Sophie's room, and you said it was inevitable." "It was." "Was it also real?" Nathan took her hand, the one wearing his mother's ring. "Every moment with you has been real, even the parts we were pretending." Emily kissed him again. Not because it was strategic, not because it fit some plan, just because she was tired of being afraid of what was real. When they pulled apart, the sun was setting over the Sicilian mountains, painting everything gold. "I need time," Emily said, "to figure out who I am without the performance, without Isabella." "How much time?" "I don't know, months maybe. I want to stay here, fix the vineyard, learn how to be Emily Romano in a place that remembers my family." "Alone?" Emily squeezed his hand. "I need to be alone for a while, to rebuild this place, to rebuild myself." "I understand." "But Nathan," she looked at him, "when I'm ready, when I know who I am without all the lies, I want to come back, to New York, to you and Sophie, if you'll have me." "We'll have you, we'll always have you." They stood there as the sun disappeared and the stars came out over Sicily, and Emily felt something she hadn't felt in years. Peace. 3 months later, Emily stood in the same courtyard watching workers tear down the last warehouse. The property was slowly transforming, new vines planted, old buildings restored. It would be years before the vineyard produced wine worth selling, but she could see the shape of it now, could see what her grandfather had envisioned. Her mother had come to visit last month, had walked through the house crying, recognizing rooms from stories her father had told, had touched the same vines Emily touched and said they remembered. Emily didn't know if vines could remember, but she let her mother believe it anyway. Her phone rang. Nathan's name on the screen. "Hey," she answered. "Hey yourself. How's Sicily?" "Dusty. Hot. Perfect. Sophie wants to know when you're coming to visit. Tell her soon, maybe next month. She also wants to know if you're still going to marry her daddy." Emily laughed. "What did you tell her?" "That it's complicated." "Good answer." Nathan was quiet for a moment. "I miss you." "I miss you too. But you're not ready to come back." "Not yet. The vineyard needs me, and I need to finish what I started here." "I know, I'm not asking you to choose between Sicily and New York. I'm just saying we're here when you're ready." Emily looked at the emerald ring, still on her finger after 5 months. "I'm still wearing your mother's ring." "I know, I can see it." Emily looked up. Nathan was standing at the gate with Sophie holding his hand. "Surprise," he said, grinning. Sophie broke free and ran across the courtyard, crashing into Emily hard enough to nearly knock her over. "You came back," Sophie squealed. "I never left. You came to visit me." Daddy said we could stay for a whole week and help with the grapes and everything. Emily looked at Nathan over Sophie's head. He shrugged. Couldn't stay away, he said. Plus, someone needed to make sure you're actually taking breaks and eating real food. I eat. Wine and cheese at midnight doesn't count. Emily laughed. It felt good. Natural. Like the performance had finally ended and she could just exist. They spent the week working on the vineyard. Nathan helped repair fences. Sophie planted flowers near the house. Emily taught them both the Sicilian dialect her grandfather had taught her, laughing when they butchered the pronunciation. On the last night, after Sophie had fallen asleep in what used to be Emily's grandmother's bedroom, Nathan and Emily sat on the terrace drinking wine Emily had bought from a vineyard down the road. You're different here, Nathan said. Lighter. I'm not performing anymore. You were always performing, even as Emily, pretending to be invisible, pretending not to matter. Sicily is the first place you've let yourself just exist. Emily knew he was right. I don't know if I can go back to New York and keep existing this way. The city has too many memories of who I was pretending to be. So don't go back to being that person. Be this one. The woman covered in dirt who smells like fertilizer? The woman who took back her family's legacy and turned it into something beautiful. Nathan paused. The woman my daughter is already planning to have as her stepmother. Emily nearly choked on her wine. She what? She's very determined. Gets it from her mother. Nathan, I'm not asking you to marry me right now. I'm not even asking you to move back to New York. I'm just saying that whenever you're ready, whether it's 6 months or 6 years, we'll be waiting, me and Sophie, in that penthouse where you first agreed to go to war with me. Emily set down her wine glass. You're making this very difficult. Good. You made it difficult for me the moment you saved my life in a restaurant. I didn't save your life, I saved your company. Same thing. Emily looked at the vineyard spreading out below them in the moonlight. Looked at the man who'd helped her reclaim it. Looked at the ring on her finger that she'd worn for so long it felt like part of her. I need another year, she said, to make this place work, to prove I can build something real. Take 2 years, take 5, I'm not going anywhere. And after, if I come back to New York, we figure it out together the same way we figured out everything else. Emily leaned her head on his shoulder. I never thanked you for giving me the chance to do this. You saved my company. I gave you your family's land back. We're even. No, we're not. You gave me back myself. Emily's voice was soft. The person I was before I learned to disappear, before I started pretending to be whatever other people needed. You gave me permission to be messy and complicated and real. Nathan kissed the top of her head. You were always those things. You just hid them better than anyone I'd ever met. They sat there in comfortable silence, watching the stars over Sicily. The next morning, Nathan and Sophie left. Emily walked them to their car, hugged Sophie tight, and told her to take care of her daddy. I will, Sophie said seriously. But you have to come visit soon, and bring wine. Daddy says you're making wine. In a few years, I'll bring you the first bottle. I'm 4. I can't drink wine. You'll be older by then. Sophie considered this, then nodded like it made perfect sense. Nathan hugged Emily last. A year, he said. A year, she confirmed. I'll call every week. You better. They drove away and Emily stood alone in the courtyard of her grandfather's vineyard. She wasn't lonely, wasn't scared, wasn't pretending to be anyone except herself. For the first time in 30 years, Emily Romano knew exactly who she was. The months passed. The vineyard grew. Emily hired local workers who remembered her grandfather and told her stories about the land before it was stolen. She learned to tend vines from old men who'd been doing it their whole lives. She learned to make wine from women who'd learned from their grandmothers. And slowly, bottle by bottle, row by row, she brought the vineyard back to life. Nathan called every week like he'd promised. Sometimes Sophie would steal the phone and tell Emily about school or the new playground in Central Park, or the book Nathan had read her 17 times. Sometimes they'd video chat and Emily would show them the progress on the vineyard. Sometimes they'd just talk about nothing important until Emily realized an hour had passed. A year turned into 18 months. On a spring morning, Emily bottled the first wine from her grandfather's vines. It wasn't sophisticated, wasn't going to win awards, but it was real and it was hers, and it tasted like justice. She packed a case and flew to New York. Nathan was waiting at the airport with Sophie, who was bigger now, almost 6. Sophie ran to Emily and didn't let go for a full minute. You came back, Sophie said into Emily's shoulder. I promised I would. Are you staying? Emily looked at Nathan over Sophie's head. For a while, she said. If that's okay. It's more than okay, Nathan said. They drove back to the penthouse. Emily's room was exactly as she'd left it, clothes still in the closet, books on the nightstand, everything waiting like she'd only been gone a day. That night, Emily opened one of the bottles from Sicily. She poured glasses for herself and Nathan while Sophie watched with great interest. To your grandfather, Nathan said, raising his glass. Who would be very proud? To my grandfather, Emily repeated, who never gave up. They drank the wine. It was rough around the edges, unpolished, real. It's terrible, Nathan said. It's perfect, Emily corrected. Sophie asked if she could try a sip. Nathan said, absolutely not. Emily snuck her a tiny taste when he wasn't looking. Sophie made a face and declared all wine was disgusting. Later, after Sophie was asleep, Emily and Nathan sat on the terrace overlooking the city. What happens now? Nathan asked. I don't know. I need to go back to Sicily. The harvest is in 3 months and I have to be there. I know. But I also want to be here, with you and Sophie. So we split time. Sicily half the year, New York half the year. Sophie learns Italian and how to stomp grapes. Emily smiled. You've thought about this. I've had 18 months to think about it. And you're okay with it? Sharing me with a vineyard in Sicily? Emily, I'm okay with anything that means you're in our lives. However that looks. Emily turned to face him. I love you. I don't know when it happened. Maybe that first night at Celestine, maybe when you gave me your mother's ring, maybe somewhere in between. But I love you, and I'm terrified of it. Why terrified? Because everyone I've ever loved, I've lost. My grandfather, my father, the version of my mother before she got sick. I don't know how to love something without waiting for it to disappear. Nathan took her hand. Then don't wait. Just love it while it's here. It was the simplest and most complicated thing anyone had ever said to her. Emily kissed him. And this time, there was no pretending, no performance, no Isabella Marchetti playing a role, just Emily Romano, finally brave enough to stop hiding. 6 months later, they were married in Sicily in the courtyard of the vineyard. Small ceremony, close friends. Sophia's flower girl taking her job very seriously. Emily's mother crying in the front row. Marcus and Victoria providing security that nobody needed because for once there were no criminals to fight. Alexandra sent a postcard from somewhere in South America. Just 3 words. Congratulations. Still disappeared. Emily kept it on her dresser. They split their time between Sicily and New York exactly as planned. Sophie learned to speak Sicilian with an accent that made the local workers laugh. Nathan invested in expanding the vineyard, building a proper winery, creating something legitimate from land that had been used for crime. The first commercial vintage came out 3 years after Emily reclaimed the property. It wasn't the best wine in Sicily, but it was honest. And people bought it because Emily didn't hide the story. She put it right on the label. Romano Vineyard. Stolen 1987. Reclaimed 2026. Wine critics called it gimmicky. Wine drinkers called it justice. Emily called it home. On the 5th anniversary of the night she'd exposed Alexei Volkov at Celestine, Emily stood in the vineyard at sunset with Nathan and Sophie. They'd released a new vintage that morning. The bottles were already selling out. Your grandfather would be proud, Nathan said. Emily thought about that, about the old man who died still fighting, still believing that someday someone would make things right. I think he'd be surprised, she said. I'm not sure he'd believe that the shy granddaughter who barely spoke at family dinners would end up here. People surprise themselves when they stop hiding. Sophie was running between the vines, chasing fireflies in the fading light. She looked happy, free, like a child who'd never learned to be afraid. Thank you, Emily said to Nathan. For what? For seeing me when I was invisible. For giving me permission to stop pretending. For waiting 18 months while I figured out who I was. She paused. For loving me even when I was someone else. You were never someone else. You were always Emily. You just needed to remember. They stood there as the sun disappeared and the stars came out over Sicily. The same stars that had watched Emily's grandfather plant these vines. The same stars that had watched everything get stolen. The same stars that now watched it all come home. And Emily realized something she'd spent her whole life missing. Justice wasn't about revenge. It wasn't about making bad people pay. It was about taking back what was stolen and building something better from the ruins. Her grandfather hadn't failed. He just needed more time than one lifetime allowed. But Emily had time now. Time to grow grapes and raise a daughter and love a man who'd helped her stop hiding. Time to turn stolen land into something real. Time to prove that sometimes the invisible people nobody notices are exactly the ones who change everything. Sophie ran back to them, breathless and laughing. "I caught one," she announced, cupping her hands carefully. "A firefly." "Let me see," Emily said. Sophie opened her hands just enough to show the small light flickering inside. "Make a wish and let it go," Emily told her. "What should I wish for?" Emily looked at Nathan, at the vineyard, at the life she'd built from the ashes of her family's loss. "Wish for the courage to be yourself," she said, "even when it's scary." Sophie closed her eyes, whispered something Emily couldn't hear, and opened her hands. The firefly rose into the twilight and disappeared among the stars. And Emily Romano, who had once been invisible, watched it go and smiled. Because she'd learned the most important thing anyone could learn: you can't hide from yourself forever. Eventually you have to choose. Stay invisible and stay safe, or step into the light and risk everything for the chance to be real. Emily had chosen the light, and she'd never looked back.